Salute, Nick family. Welcome to the channel. Dope Soul Sports Talk, Dope Soul Knicks Talk, a member of the NBK family. This is the Just Nick and It Weekly Show. I'm your host, Stephanie, aka Queen. We're just Nick fans, meeting weekly to chomp it up about our team. Think hair salon, barbershop, family gathering. There's no slides, no statistical analysis, nothing slick. We just getting together and kicking it, or as I like to say, nicking it. We keep it 100 here. This is not the Pom Pom podcast, unless you're Staffer or Geoff rooting for Mitchell Robinson or myself defending Jalen Brunson. Other than that, everything else is up for discussion and extensive pushback, though we do try to keep it respectful. Now, if you're into the visual experience and you want slides and statistical analysis, be sure to catch me on the Morning Vibe recap show. That's every morning after the Knicks play, about 9-ish in the morning. So it is pretty early. And I'll be doing the first one the day after the Knicks' first preseason game. I think they play October 9th, and I want to say it's Boston. I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure it's October 9th. Then you can also catch me on the Queen's Court on the Nothing But Knicks channel. I'm starting back there October 2nd, and then that's a much more visual experience. Like I said, slides, statistical analysis. We go over last week's slate of games, preview the next week's slate of games. So it's a different vibe on those shows than it is here. Today, I'm piggybacking off of the article that was in the Athletic subscription required, where they previewed the Atlantic Division. I want to talk about that. I'm going to ask the same questions of the panel in the chat that they asked of each other, or at least similar questions. So we'll get into that. There's been a lot of, this is, I think, our first time meeting since the USA lost to Canada in the bronze medal game. There's been a lot of talk about Brunson, so we'll revisit. Listen, I don't feel like it's something that needs to be revisited, but I'm a woman of the people. So this is what the fan base is talking about. I'll put it out there. Is there any concern about Brunson given how he played in FIBA? Yeah. All right. I'm going to put it out there anyway. The chat may want to talk about it. Some members of the panel may want to talk about it. And then we'll also go over the NBA's rest rules. I don't think it's really going to apply to us. There's only one player that qualifies. That's Julius Randle. And he plays every game unless he's injured. Lastly, before we get into it, shout out to my New York Liberty. Franchise record 32 wins. They were 32-8, second seed in the playoffs. They play the Washington Wizards tomorrow, 7:30 on ESPN2. Breanna Stewart was the Associated Press Player of the Year. She also made the first team All-WNBA, and the general manager, Jonathan Cobb, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was Executive of the Year. So you'll see when I bring in a panel, we are giving love to the Liberty with the Liberty colors today. Anyway, let me bring in the rest of the panel. Jerrell, Geoff, Ajay. I miss Stafford Don. I don't know when he's coming back. I miss you, man. Jake Boogie hasn't been here. This is his second week. I miss him too. I was able to talk via social media, right? That's talk nowadays, to Tsunami, and seems like she'll be back for our preseason show, whenever that is. So I'm looking forward to that. Shout out to the chat. How's everybody doing?
Queen, as always, a pleasure to be here with you guys and chopping it up, talking about the Knicks, and let's get this thing on and let's get this thing popping.
Yeah, salute to the chat. Happy to be here, as always.
Amen.
Yep. Yes, David L. The Liberty is now part of Brooklyn, not the Knicks. That's my only reason for going in the building, to see the Liberty and to see the Knicks when they play Brooklyn. There's no other reason. I mean, unless there's a concert there or something. But other than that, there's no other basketball reason to go into that building.
Right.
Anyway, should we start with the topic and leave all of the other stuff for later, or do we want to get the other stuff out of the way and start with the topic? I'm feeling flexible today.
Let's get through the other stuff first.
Let's get through the other stuff first. All right. So, a lot of, I don't know what you want to call it, comments on Twitter about Jalen Brunson. And even a friend of mine called me and asked me, was Jalen Brunson exposed during the FIBA games? And there's a lot of, comments on Twitter and in the chats that Jalen Brunson wasn't who we know him to be in FIBA. And some people are concerned that for some reason, FIBA tells us more about Jalen Brunson than what we've seen in the NBA and in the playoffs. That's what I'm getting from it. It's not a big thing for me, but like I said, this is a sports channel. This is for Knick fans. And, I think it's appropriate to bring up issues that, Knick fans are interested in, even though FIBA is not going to make me question Brunson. Get back to me after the first 25 games of the season. I'll let you know, because I think what is fair, and I'm not talking about FIBA, what is fair is did Brunson just have a good season? Did Brunson just have a good playoff run? Or is that who Jalen Brunson is? I think that's a fair question. But the whole FIBA thing, I don't really get that. But let's go around. We'll start with Jerrell, Geoff, Ajay. And if I remember, we'll go around the other way on the next question.
All right.
Let me say this.
Okay.
I would apologize to Jerrell. Jerrell shows up for me every week. Every week since I started this channel, unless he's sick or something, he shows up for me. And last Wednesday, I forgot about his show. Yesterday, I forgot about his show, and I felt so bad this morning when I woke up, and I watched the show too. And it was just him, so I really felt bad. That being said, I don't know if there was anything I could have offered. I'm not a like watch-alongs. I'm good. Analysis of football, I'm still learning. I don't know if I know it on that level, but that show, Jerrell, you might want to consider doing it by yourself or doing like a 20-minute breakdown, because that show was really good. And I'm not just saying that because I feel bad. Okay. It was a really good show. the slides was kind of like, where you get that slide from? I'm gonna have to use that. The slides was good. Your analysis was good. That was good. That was really good. You might want to consider doing it by yourself.
Thank you very, very much. But obviously, you can come anytime you want, man. Like I'm going to invite you every week. But thank you though. Thank you though. I had fun.
Yeah, you did. It was a good job.
I had fun. But for FIBA, I already came through last week and said I almost kind of didn't care about FIBA anymore. So I don't think nobody should be judged by FIBA when it comes to the NBA, whether you play good or bad. I mean, nobody wants to see their player or anybody who represents their team play bad. So that's why we was hoping that RJ played well, just so he can carry it over to the regular season. But yeah, if a player plays bad during FIBA, or I don't know, like I guess I can't consider Jalen Brunson played bad, because it's not like he put those type of numbers up like he did for us with the Knicks. But I didn't expect that, though. I think he has a completely different role on the team. He was definitely more of a facilitator. So I don't think he got exposed. I didn't see anything that I didn't already know about Jalen Brunson. I mean, you could say that he's not the best defender, but we already knew that. I mean, I know he can distribute and he can pass, but nobody's confusing him with Jason Kidd. So, yeah, I think Jalen Brunson, I mean, he didn't have a great FIBA tournament, but he's still our point guard, and I think he will make the All-Star team. this coming season. Like I don't have any, I don't have any, I don't know, I don't have any, no butterflies for Jalen Brunson. Other people on the team, yes, but Jalen Brunson is almost the one person I don't have a question mark from. And the only reason I really have a question mark with Julius Randle is because of the playoffs and how he's going to be with his ankle after the ankle surgery. But other than that, yeah, Jalen Brunson, I mean, he's our point guard, so I'm good with him.
Okay. Geoff?
Well, to me, I think it's a little bit disingenuous to put the blame for the FIBA losses at Brunson's feet. I mean, I think really the biggest problem for that team was a lack of front court players. I think we tried to play small ball and with the FIBA rules and it just looked like we got punished by bigger teams for the most part. I mean, that's how Germany beat us. And it was just by 2 points, I know, but I just don't think we did a good job of roster construction in general. If you want to argue that our talent should have won out anyway, okay, I guess that you can say that, but that hasn't really been the case. And really, I don't think we've done a good job of just building a team that makes sense since FIBA started. It's just like, we don't think about continuity. We don't, I don't know. Jaren Jackson Jr. didn't play particularly well, in my opinion. I didn't, Walker Kessler was really the only true 5 on the roster, and he didn't play very much. So, if you want to blame Brunson, that's fine, but I don't think you can say that it's just a one-hit wonder for Jalen at this point, because 2 years ago he was doing it in Dallas, and he beat Donovan Mitchell 2 years ago and he was the primary player in some of those games. Then he came back and he did the exact same thing again last year. So I mean, if we're going to start saying that Brunson is a fluke, I think you got to start saying that Donovan's a fluke, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that in the slightest. But I think if you're being honest and you're being fair, I think that Brunson's going to be fine. I don't worry about him. The guy's a winner. And FIBA didn't work out, but I don't know. I think the other teams wanted it more than we did. And again, I think that roster is just fundamentally flawed. Instead of putting together a normal basketball team, we just kind of want to play a bunch of guards and shoot a bunch of threes.
Yeah. Ajay?
Salute to you, Queen, in the chat and Knicks Nation. And, don't forget to hit the thumbs up, hit the like button as we come along. You guys got to stay up with the amount of people watching. Like, I don't want to see 100 people watching and then 25 likes. Let's stay on par with that. Okay, so I listen. Just like the NBA players, just like the association, I didn't put a lot of stocks in FIBA. Not because it's not important, because we're NBA fans. We like our teams. We just don't put a lot. To me, it was just a more rigorous workout that those guys, to me, it was just a summer workout for them, but a summer workout with a purpose, as opposed to just him standing there with a trainer. It was better for our guys to play in with the competitive spirit that FIBA brings. And to me, it's a win-win for all of us, for all of our guys. Right. Mm-hmm. I don't even understand why they blaming Jalen Brunson for this. I don't get it. I mean, I watched the games. I don't see what he did that was so horrendous that they pointing the fingers at him. Right. So I don't get it. But I'm glad that we had guys that participated in those games. Like I said, it's just a win-win-win all around for us. These guys, otherwise they would have been working out with a trainer. They would have been working out, amongst friends and whatever. But at FIBA, they actually worked out with. It was like more like a real game. So it's almost like they were continuously playing over the summer as opposed to just doing workouts. One thing I want to say with the FIBA, I thought there was a conversation that I found interesting that we never talked about on the show, is the the world champion against NBA champion.
Yeah.
Thing. We never touched up on that, and I
We
thought
could
that was
touch on it.
I thought that was an interesting debate. I didn't understand the confusion or why people got offended, and you guys may not agree with me. Like NBA champion, we call it whatever we want. We call it world champion, but it's really the NBA champion. In fact, in basketball, here, at home, you have the NBA championship, you have the NCAA championship. So the NBA champion is not even world champion in the US. They're champion of that league, because you also have the G League champion and the high school. There's like a whole bunch of championship going on. The world champion is actually the champion between teams from every country in the world. So I don't even understand we call it whatever we want. But if you compare that to other sports, people who follow other sports probably listening to this and they're confused. They're like, what's the big deal? Who cares? Like what it is? What do you call it? Whatever. But what we do every year is the NBA championship. It's not a world championship, because you don't play the world. You don't play teams against it. Yeah, everybody from the world, the best players from the world play in this league, but you don't play the world. Like the World Cup, the soccer World Cup, that's a world championship, because that right now, so the World Cup is in 3 years, but right now they already started, the elimination game, the head-to-heads. So that you actually play in every country team, every country in the world. I don't know if FIBA does that, but I think they do. But in the end, the last stuff we just watched over the last month, you're just playing every country in the world. So listen, congratulations to Germany, the world champions, and congratulations to the Denver Nuggets, the NBA champions. They're all champions as far as I'm concerned. So I thought it was an interesting conversation that they were having.
I think the NBA just calls it that just because they view them as the best league in the world. So, I mean, it's just semantics at a point. So I never really cared.
Yeah.
Like, in baseball, they call it the World Series. It really ain't the World Series then.
Yeah. but it was such a big thing. I'm like, who cares? Like, who gives a hoot?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It
doesn't matter.
People want to argue, and it's the off season. So
yeah,
right. Not a lot.
Like Queen said, the dog days of
content creation.
Yep.
Yeah. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Anything else on FIBA? I will. The last thing I want to say about, and this is Fournier, this is RJ, this is who else played? Josh Hart. There is nothing that can happen in FIBA that would change my opinion of a player, because I just feel like, for our players anyway, I've watched them for the entire season. I've watched them in the playoffs. This is the league in which they play in, for the most part. There is nothing that's going to change my opinion when you go play on a team with other players. That's not your real team. You're in a different. There's nothing that's going to change my opinion. Now, you don't play well, you don't play well. That's a fact. But in terms of my overall opinion of a player, there's nothing that can happen in FIBA that's going to change that.
Right.
Because I just feel like I have a larger sample size of watching that player in the NBA and in the playoffs. And that's Brunson, that's RJ, that's Josh Hart, that's Fournier. Fournier didn't surprise me. Not one bit. I know Fournier can play basketball. I've seen him play. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's nothing that's going to change my, oh, wow, Fournier can really play. I know that already. You know?
Brandon Ingram had a terrible tournament. I still want Brandon Ingram, though.
It didn't change my opinion of Brent. Nothing that happened in FIBA changed my opinion on any player. Nothing. Even Brandon Ingram. And I'm not coming back like, what? Did you see Brandon Ingram? He lost his spot to Josh Hart. The Knicks should not trade for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I see it. There's just nothing that's going to change my opinion of those players. Now, I will say that I'm very hopeful after watching RJ Barrett play. Just given, I'm talking about his floor game, given how he played in the playoffs, given how he played in FIBA, his shooting was a little better. I just saw him do some things with the ball, saw him do some things off the dribble, and the passing. So I'm hopeful for RJ Barrett, but it didn't change my opinion of anybody
Right.
that was on that team. Collectively, like Geoff said, there was roster construction issues. I definitely agree with that. Steve Kerr trying to put together another little Golden State Warrior team with undersized players, and that's just not going to work in international basketball. It's just not. I think he gets it now.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Does that change your opinion of Steve Kerr? Because Steve Kerr, they always talk about him like he's this great coach, not realizing he's coaching Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and all those boys. Now he's coaching a team that don't have these guys. What happened?
I don't know. I don't think say if Steph Curry was on his team, I don't think he would have told Steve Kerr to put the bigs in. So I don't know. Like I don't think my opinion of him is any different either.
I think what it does show is that it's about the players. I don't think it's not that the coaches don't count. I think the coaches do count, but it's hard to judge a coach without looking at the roster. That's it. I mean, when Steve Kerr didn't have, who was it? Klay Thompson went down with an injury. I think Steph Curry went down in the same season, I want to say, with an injury. They finished in the lottery with this great coach, Steve Kerr. And I do think he's a good coach. But talent matters. And the roster matters. And how that roster plays matters. Like Doc Rivers got fired. And some of it may have been, now it's coming out, that some of it was the fact that they wanted to re-sign Harden. And Harden didn't want to play for Doc Rivers. So I think that was part of getting rid of Doc Rivers. But a part of it was also his team's performances in game sevens. But when you look at those game sevens, like even with the Clips, Kawhi and Paul George was terrible in that game 7. Last year, Harden and Embiid were terrible in game 7. So you got to have the roster, you got to have the talent, but they have to show up as well. So, yeah. So, yeah, this is what I'm. So no, Ajay. I always felt that about Kerr. He had the players, and you always wondered how he would do if you didn't have them.
One quick question: do you think if Tibbs was coaching that team, do you think we would have won? Just by the way that he coaches.
I don't think so. I mean, you got Jaren Jackson averaging 2.8 rebounds. I don't know how.
Tibbs would have played Walker Kessler though.
You think?
And yeah, he wouldn't need a rim protector, like he always does. So I don't know. Yeah. That's something to think about. Though.
I mean, they had Spo was there as an assistant coach.
That's
Lou
true.
was there as an assistant coach. I mean,
that's true.
I don't know. I guess the question you're asking is, could Tibbs have gotten more out of that team? I don't know. That's interesting. What do you think, Geoff?
I don't know. I'm not sure that. I'm not sure that team was designed to win. It had a lot of talented players on it, but it's almost like they ignored the what the competition was doing and who they'd be playing against. I mean, you got all these teams with these trees, and we're in here, welcome to the land of the little people. Basketball's still a big people game for the most part. I mean, and so to me that had as much to, I think they handcuffed and handicapped themselves just by the players that they chose. So, Thibodeau more defensive minded, I suppose, but I don't know that it would have made that big a difference. I think Kerr's a good coach. I think Spoelstra's a good coach. I think,
Ty Lue.
Ty Lue's a good coach. So it's not like they had a bunch of bombs up there. It's not like it wasn't Derek Fisher and Jeff Hornacek out there,
right. And Fizdale.
Fizdale. Oh my. Yeah. Fizdale would have had us finish last.
Right. We would have lost to Zimbabwe.
Right. Yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't know. I don't think it was a coaching issue. The coaches are easy to blame, but I just think it was a poorly put together team.
Yeah, and Steve, this was Steve Kerr's first year, right? He took over for Pop. This is his first time as head coach internationally. He'll be the head coach of the Olympic team in Paris. I bet you this team, I bet you this team will look a little. Well, obviously it's going to look a little different because we're going to have better players. Those
Right.
players are going to, want to go play in Paris, but in the Olympics. But they got to have some big. But you know what I was thinking though? I was hard pressed to think of which center would you have brought, because you would think that, oh, you need a big rebounding type center that can throw their body around and and defend in the post, because they were getting killed on the boards and they couldn't defend in the post. If Embiid, I don't even know, would Embiid play for the US?
No.
No, he's got.
He doesn't even play. Okay.
Yeah.
I was hard pressed to think of who, other than the top tier players who decided they weren't going to go, who would they have gotten to play?
Mitchell
center?
Robinson.
Yeah,
Mitchell Robinson.
yeah.
Miles
Mitch
Turner.
gets body too, but I'm talking about defend the post. They can definitely. Mitch is a great offensive rebounder, but
Great rim
no.
protector too.
Yeah. But he
Terrific
get body.
shot
He
blocker.
get bodied in the post too. If you lay the wood on him.
I don't think Daniel Theis is going to be eating his lunch like he did.
Right. No, not him. But there was some other lumberjacks on some of them other teams too. But yeah, Mitchell Robinson.
I don't know. I had to go through the roster.
I would have to go through.
Bam Adebayo, maybe. I mean, he's small. He's a small for center, but
I mean, there's other center. Robert Williams from Boston.
Robert Williams from Boston.
It's a
They're
couple.
undersized. Those guys look like they was like 7 foot,
True.
280. Some of them. I was like,
I'm sure if Tibbs was the coach, he would have found somebody though. He wouldn't have went with just Jaren Jackson Jr. as the 5.
you already know that from the jump.
Yeah,
He's
no
foul
way.
prone, and he's not a good rebounder.
No, Tibbs wouldn't have did that, and I'm actually not surprised. But Tibbs could still be, part of international play when the Olympics come, because he was an assistant coach for the Olympic team before.
Yeah.
So, I think Tibbs got a couple gold medals with USA. I just don't remember the years, but yeah, he has international coaching experience, just not as the head coach though. He was an assistant.
Yep. Anthony D, we're doing Atlantic Division preview where we just going through this whole Brunson Olympic team stuff. People are concerned about Brunson, felt he got exposed in FIBA games. So we just got through with that. And
What I don't understand is why people say that he got exposed against the Miami Heat. Didn't he drop 40 points in game 5? And wasn't he the only good player on the floor in game 6?
They would
If that's exposing Jalen Brunson, then
it would have to be defensive related.
Don't know what they're talking about.
But you know what? I think for Brunson, you got to leave the defense alone. When we talk about Dame Lillard, do we talk about his defense? When we talk about James Harden, do we talk about his defense? There's just some
defense.
Right. There's just some players, they're just not defensive players, and you just have to let it go. That's just not who they are. He tries. It's not like he's out there like a cone.
But do we really, in the final analysis of that series, was it really the point guard defense that was our fatal flaw, or was it our inability to make shots, which was pretty much Jalen was the only person doing that. So all I'm saying is I don't think Jalen Brunson got exposed in the Miami series. If you want to say that Quentin Grimes got exposed as not being a good offensive player, okay. If you want to say that Mitchell Robinson got exposed, I'm okay with that. But if you want to say that Jalen Brunson got exposed against Miami, we watched 2 different series, because he was the best player on the floor for either team, in my opinion. He's unstoppable.
Yeah.
And they threw everybody they could at him. They'd have played 6 guys on him if they'd let him, and he would have still scored.
I think every player has something they don't do well.
For sure.
Every player has something they, nobody talks about the Joker's defense. And I'm not saying Brunson is that level of player. But you already know that, so you take that and you try to build a team with other players that can play defense around them. And that's what the Knicks are going to have to that's what the Knicks are going to have to do. Robinson helps, Grimes helps, and if we can get another, RJ can get back to his defensive ways like he was in year 1 and 2, that would definitely help. But even the star players have something they don't do. Somebody, did you see the Twitter? This was so funny. The fan that was getting on Kevin Durant because he doesn't dunk anymore. He just cursed him out. He's like, listen, he said, Durant, listen, I need you to look at this. This was year, I don't know, 2, 3, whatever it was. See here, when you used to dunk and do things, he was cursing him out, though. I'm not going to use that language here. He said, now all you're doing is pulling up for jump shots. You're getting real soft now. We need you to get back to it. Now, he's like, 34 years old with an Achilles injury. Last season, He got injured during pregame just shooting a shot. And this guy want him to get back to his dunking ways. And Kevin Durant couldn't leave it alone.
Of course.
Why are you watching me? Watch a player who does that. Oh, my goodness. The guy came back. You punk. I'ma still watch you because truth be told, you my favorite player. But I need you to get back to stop it. I was like, wow.
Fans are crazy. Fans are nuts, man.
Oh boy. So
that's funny.
Yeah, so that's fans. They're not going to. They'll see a weakness in one player, but they're not going to see a weakness in their favorite player now. You try to say something about their favorite player. Oh boy, forget it.
Right.
Brunson, listen, next season, we'll see if this was just a 1-year thing, right? Or if this is who he is. I'll put my money on this is who he is, but I think that's a fair, question, for those who wonder, can he do that again? Or did he just have a good season? But to Jeff's point, he did it in Dallas, with Dallas as well. Anthony said he blames me. Anyway, anything else on that before we move on? All right. Okay. So let me see. There's one more thing I think. Maybe we'll do that later. We'll talk about that last. The rest rules, the new NBA rest rules.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah. Basically, if you're a star player, and we'll get more in depth, but in general, if you're a star player, which is having made the All-Star team or the All-NBA team 1 or more times over the last 3 years, there are, when you can sit and not sit, there's new rules on that.
The player that's funny about that to me is Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I did hear about it, but I just didn't know what the rules were. That's what it was.
Right. Anthony D, you missed the intro because I said in the intro, I don't even want to talk about the Brunson topic. It's not, it's just a non-topic for me, but I'm the host of a show for the fans. So if this is what the fans is talking about, let's talk about it. But you're right. That's that. I don't want to talk about it. 25 games into next season, we could talk about Brunson. Not after FIBA. All right, let's get into. So I read an article in The Athletic where they previewed the Atlantic Division. The link to that article is in the description if you want to read it. It is behind the paywall, though. But I thought it would be interesting to ask the panel in the chat the same questions that they asked. Oh boy. Excuse me, guys. So I'm on my Mac And every time I move the cursor to the lower right, I have it set for it to go to sleep. So if you see me clicking and whatever, it's because I'm logging back. I got to change, and I keep saying my mouse just goes down into that area and boop.
Yeah, change that setting, Steph.
Yes, I will. I keep forgetting. All right. So let's start with this one. So we're talking about the Atlantic Division. That's the Knicks, Toronto, Philly, Brooklyn. Who else? Am I missing somebody? Did I say Toronto?
Boston.
Yeah, you said Toronto.
Boston. 5 teams. All right. Best off-season move in the Atlantic Division. So we had Porzingis going to Boston. We had Schroeder going to Toronto. Any other movement?
No, we got Dante DiVincenzo.
Yeah, we got Dante. Obi was traded out. DiVincenzo is in. Oh, and Doc Rivers is out. Because we're doing players and coaches. Doc Rivers is out in Philly, and Nick Nurse is in.
Oh, we're doing coaches too? Okay.
Yeah.
Dennis Schroeder, I guess.
And Nick Nurse is out in Toronto.
And Nick Nurse is out in Toronto, right? Going to a divisional team.
Right.
Trader.
I think Ajay is first going back around.
I mean, what do we want to analyze? Like,
what was the best
move?
Yeah, what was the best offseason move in the division, in your opinion?
I think KP going to Boston, even though they lost Marcus Smart, but I think KP going to Boston actually makes a difference to that. You know, whether it's KP going in combination with Marcus Smart leaving, that makes a difference to that team. Otherwise, the second thing is, Dennis Schroeder is marginal. I mean, he's an okay player. Dennis Schroeder, NBA is not Dennis Schroeder. It's not FIBA Dennis Schroeder. So we know that. But I think he's going to make a difference over there in Toronto because they lost Fred VanVleet. So that's another move too. We got to mention VanVleet is out of Toronto.
Right.
And of course, on our end, I still don't know Philly. I still don't understand what Philly's doing. In terms of it's still up in the air what's going to happen with them. With James Harden, with that situation. So we don't know what's going on there. Brooklyn really didn't make any move that I can think of, except for re-signing their guys. They re-signed.
I guess that's an off-season move. Cam Johnson,
yeah.
Who did not shoot well in FIBA. But that does not change my opinion.
He got exposed.
Of Cam Johnson.
Cam
Johnson got exposed in FIBA.
He can't shoot. 40% from 3, like in the NBA, but
right.
Being a non-shooter.
And here at home, of course, Dante DiVincenzo. I think we talked about that move. Most of us actually like that move. We feel that it's gonna bring something positive to the team. But going back to the question, I think the more impactful move that happened in our division is Kristaps Porzingis going to Boston, and Marcus Smart moving out of Boston. So that's gonna make a difference. We are gonna see a difference in that team. So whether it's good or bad that they lose Marcus Smart and bring in KP, remains to be seen. But that was the more impactful move in our division, I think.
Was KP. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Well, everything Boston touches turns to gold, but I don't really understand the getting rid of Marcus Smart business. I know they love KP and everything, but Smart was the heart and soul of that defense, and they added another guy who commands the ball and needs a bunch of shots. Well, they already got 2 superstars that already do that, in Tatum and Brown. So, how many touches are there going to be for KP? Are you going to be able to keep all 3 of them happy? Like I said, everything works out for Boston, so I'm sure That'll be fine. I mean, they can have a new coach every year, and their coach of the year, and it just inexplicable to me. But so I'm sure it'll work out for him. But just from a process perspective, I'm not sure. I mean, how much. I mean, Porzingis is injury prone. He's going to miss 20-25 games. He's a terrific player. Don't get me wrong. He does everything Boston wants. He stretches the floor. He can shoot the three. So from that perspective, I imagine it's pretty good. But I don't think anybody in our division really made a lot of big moves. So I mean, it's not like there was a ton of shakeup with any of the rosters and most of the moves that have been made, I think had a negative impact. I mean, I think if you're switching out Schroeder and Van Vliet, that's a minus for Toronto. Philly's a mess until it's not. I mean, that Harden situation is not going to be improving. I mean, I don't think there's any way that they just wave their magic wand and all of a sudden that goes away. And if you remove him, if you extricate him from the situation, what do you get back in return? What does that look like? Tobias Harris doesn't sound like he's incredibly happy as a player. So I think they've got some things that they need to work out. If they do, I think Nick Nurse is probably a better coach than Doc Rivers, just in my opinion. So I think from that standpoint, it might be a plus. Brooklyn, I like the guys they brought back. I think they've got a good team. Their lack of star power is, I think, going to keep them outside of the top 6 in the Eastern Conference. But I definitely think that's a team that's going to be, battling for a play-in spot at the very least. And on some nights when Bridges and Johnson are hot, they're going to put it on some teams because those two boys can play. Mm-hmm. And man, I think that the best offseason move would be Julius Randle getting healthy. How about that?
I want to ask you a question about Boston, though. You don't think KP at center, I don't know if he'll start there, he'll definitely get some time there. You don't think that helps Brown and Tatum, provided he is healthy, in the sense that whoever your center is has to go out and play him? That guy, you're not going to be slumped in the key or parked in the key against KP. You don't think that helps, their movement?
It could help him on offense, but I also think that not having Marcus Smart to guard the best player on defense is just as big a concern. In other words, I don't know how much of it. I mean, Boston scored at will last year as it was, so I don't think that their offense was non-functional. Are they going to get that much? Like, what's the value added production? I think that they were already getting that. I mean, when they played a lot of Al Horford at the 5, and so that would be doing the same thing, so maybe they can do that longer. So I guess from that standpoint, It would be better. But again, Marcus Smart defensively is so good. I mean, he just locks up whomever he guards, and that is such a nice thing to have. Now, he doesn't shoot the ball as well as KP does, I'll grant you that, but he also doesn't need shots. You got Porzingis, you're going to have to get him shots. I mean, and you want to get him shots too. That's not a problem, but I'm just saying, not everybody on the team can be high volume with their shot.
The only thing I'll say to that is they're building and looking toward the playoffs. And you're right. In the regular season, you can, Horford was fine. That playing Horford at times and Robert Williams, that tandem was fine. In the playoffs, though, having somebody like Marcus Smart out there that's not knocking down 3-point shots, it just seems to me, and I could be totally wrong, but it just seems to me that once you get to the playoffs, everybody has to be a threat. Everybody has to be able to shoot. And I'm also wondering, Geoff, if they feel like Derek, what's his name? came
White.
over from
White.
San Antonio. Derek White. Now he's no Marcus Smart, but I wonder if they feel like he can play that role. You know, even though he's
Maybe.
not a good a defender as Marcus Smart, but you're going to get a little more offense as well, and that also helps teams play a little have to play more honest in the playoffs when the court seems to shrink. I'm wondering, you
Is
know.
KP a good playoff performer?
Well, I don't know if they're thinking that or if they're thinking about spreading the defense, because whether he's a good performer or not, you're not leaving him,
Right.
right? You're not leaving KP because he's a threat. Um, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I agree with you that they lost a lot of toughness, not just with Smart, but Grant Williams, I believe his name is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They lost.
I actually
Go
thought
ahead.
that was the worse loss for them than Marcus
Yeah,
Smart was.
Mm.
Honestly. But for me, Jeff, were you finished?
Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think I might be one of the few people that actually like the KP move for them.
Me too.
I'm,
I like it
but
too.
I'm mostly thinking about because of playoffs. I know a lot of people talk about what KP can't do and how he can't stay healthy. But if he is healthy during the playoffs, like the rotation between him, Robert Williams, and Al Horford would be really, really nice. At least to me, just for all the reasons that Steph said was stretching the floor. If he's healthy in the playoffs, I think that is a huge um, upgrade to Marcus Smart when it comes to shooting wise. But like you said, like Jeff said, that like the toughness will be gone because of Marcus Smart. But I think Derek White would have took over that spot anyway. To be honest, it seemed like they really like him. And if I can get rid of Marcus Smart and keep Derek White, not saying that he's going to be the same defender, but yeah, if I can bring in KP, I actually think that's a plus for them. If he stays healthy, I think that's the main thing. But as long as he stays healthy, I don't think Boston is worse as a team just because KP is there. I think a lot of Knicks fans just have a love-hate relationship when it comes to KP. And plus, he's going to Boston, who is one of our rivals. So it's not that many Knicks fans are going to like that move regardless, I don't think.
I like that. I thought that was a great move for them.
You thought it was a great – okay.
And the versatility they have now.
Right.
The versatility they have, and if KP gets hurt, you go right back to Horford and Williams
Right.
without Marcus Smart though. Without
Yeah,
Marcus Smart.
That's true.
So yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. I definitely think they've lost some toughness. But what they can do offensively, how they can play plays in different positions. You can even go Horford and KP.
Yep.
Yep.
And how long do you count
That's
on?
you could go 5 out.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Because like I said, remember before when I said when I was watching Denver, I was jealous not just because of the Joker and what he was doing. He's obviously, not normal, but everybody in that starting five could shoot.
Right.
They had a shooter at every position on the floor. Because of this, Boston can do the same thing.
Right.
Just because they could play Al Horford and KP at the same time. It's a big if the foot is okay and if he's healthy during the playoffs, like if people say like the NBA and the NFL, regardless of the sport, it's a copycat league when they win championships. Everybody on the floor on Denver can shoot. So it seems like Boston kind of did the same thing.
I just think the playoffs is so different. You just can't have anybody that's not a threat. That's how different the playoffs are. And that's why I like I don't know how many of you guys watch the Liberty. They have a scoring threat at every single position.
Yep.
So you can move the ball, you can move your body, you could do. I mean, the ball movement they're a fun team to watch because they have players at every position that can get the shot or get a shot.
Salute to Coach B in the chat. He said he put up on playoff.
You could put it up there.
Hold on. Mm-hmm. He put up on playoff averages. Like with Boston, that's all they would need from him.
Right.
Like if KP averaged 16 and 6, like that's all they would need. Like they got two of the best wings in the league. So if they can combine that with KP with production like that, and Al Horford will still be able to have toughness down low and shoot the three with him. Yeah, I think they can be kind of dangerous in the playoffs. But that's just a big if, you know,
Right.
when it comes
You
to
don't think that's a concern, defensive rebounding?
Well, but Al Horford, like I don't know how many rebounds Al Horford, like because they could still use Robert Williams. So no, like unless Robert
But
Williams,
if you're using Robert Williams, then you're losing your versatility.
yeah,
Or
but
a lot of
Right.
it, because you're playing him at the 4, KP
Right.
at the 4.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. 6.4 rebounds per game from the 4 or the 5 spot. If we were getting that from Julius Randle, we would be, you know,
it depends on the team. Jaren Jackson averaged how much?
Right. About
He-
6.
And he just won Defensive Player of the Year, and he averages about 6 or 7 rebounds at the 4 position.
Right.
So I think it just depends on what type of team you have.
Right. And I don't know if, because remember, he's going to be splitting time. He's going to play some 4. He's going to play some 5. He's not going to be your full-time center playing, 36 minutes at the center spot, giving you 6 rebounds. Whatever. I mean, I don't even know if you got 6 rebounds from Al Horford playing that position.
Right. I don't
Right.
know.
So he'll play a little bit at the 4, a little bit, a little bit at the 5. Robert Williams is still going to play.
Yeah, KP might not even start. But if he can come off the bench and give you 16 to 18 rebounds off the bench, shooting from the outside at the 4 position or the 5, I don't say that's not a downgrade for what they had before. Unless you just talk about, the perimeter defense and the toughness. I think it just depends. I think they just switched the way that they're going to play basketball.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was about to say. I think they looked at this team and they took a risk. They took a risk. They looked at this team and said, are we going to be able to win a championship? Like this. Which team gives us a better chance at winning a championship? And they felt like being more flexible on the offensive end would have. And I think they felt that Derek White would step in for Smart. He's not, a defensive juggernaut.
No.
He's a good offensive player, though. White was good in San Antonio. I mean, I've
Is
seen
is he a slouch defensively?
No,
not a slouch, but he's not Marcus Smart.
He's not Marcus Smart.
Okay.
Marcus Smart's Defensive Player of the Year. I mean,
Right.
not very many better perimeter defenders. I mean, Marcus Smart can guard 1 through 4. And at his height, that's saying quite a bit. I mean, he could guard KP. They're not on the same team, but he can guard KP. I mean, he's just that strong and just an incredible defender.
So Derek White he's a good defender. He's not as strong as Marcus Smart. Right. I think that makes the big difference, because if you put he's a nagging guy on the defensive end. But when you put him against somebody like Drew Holiday is gonna chew him and spit him out, because he lacks the strength to guard some of those guys.
Right. So Anthony D thinks that Marcus Smart's defense was slipping, and that he's been getting by on reputation. That in that Miami series, and I don't recall that in that Miami series his defense was atrocious.
I'll take Anthony D's word for it. I didn't watch the series, so I can't speak one way. Look, it's Boston. Everything turns up roses for them. I'm sure it'll figure itself out. So I mean, that's just the way that it works. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers hurts himself after 4 games for the Jets. Whatever Boston does turns to gold. It's just that's how those organizations work from now until the end of time.
Right.
Right.
Anything else on that before we move to the next segment of our preview of the Atlantic Division?
I think we talked about Marcus Smart and KP enough.
Yeah. I do want to say though, don't sleep on Schroeder. I get it. I'm kind of going against what I just said because he looked He looked really good in
He did.
FIBA.
He did. Well, now you care. Now you care, Steph.
Now you're gonna go by FIBA.
Right.
What he did in FIBA when you saw him play in the NBA.
I was gonna say, are we down playing Dante DiVincenzo just because he's on our team?
All right, let's go back.
Especially regular season wise. Like, you gotta think about if he takes over, Obi's minutes plus some, like he's going to produce more than Obi is. So with that production, say if KP is hurt, Dante DiVincenzo and Schroeder are probably going to be neck to neck as the best, moves of the offseason.
Wow.
I feel like they would have to be. Like the other teams didn't really add anybody else. So we'll see.
Yeah. I remember Schroeder in Atlanta. Shout out to Knicks 100 and GM. And then after that, he just fell off. Now, I don't know if that was because of his role changed, when he went to, different teams or
Queen, he's
or
a
what?
solid player though.
He's
Dennis
good.
Good player.
Yeah.
He's a very good
Yeah.
player.
He is.
Yeah.
He ain't Fred Van Vliet, though, is he?
No,
Do you think he's a better player than Van Vliet?
no, I'm taking Van Vliet.
I am too.
Right. But he's going to be on a team without LeBron James. It's just hard to shine if you're a ball handler on any team with LeBron James. So he's going to be in a position where he'll have more freedom, I guess.
Yeah, are they going to give him the ball?
Well, Scotty Barnes will probably, he brings it up some.
Because I think as long as he has the ball, I think he'd be good. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think they should give him the ball.
Right.
I probably will.
And the freedom to just
just
run
to
the
do
show.
whatever he wants. I mean, I think where Toronto going?
I like Toronto's team though. I think they just underperformed last season. I mean, they had Van Vliet at 1, they had Barnes at 2, they had OG at 3, they had Siakam at 4, they had the center they got from San Antonio. What was his name?
Jakob Pertl.
Yeah.
Pirtle.
Pirtle.
I thought that was a solid starting lineup. I just thought they,
Gary
were
Trent
underachieved.
Jr.
Pertl, they started to play better.
Gary Trent Jr., right?
Mhm.
Jr. Yeah, and I wouldn't sleep on them. This season as well. I think this Atlantic division is going to be tough. I like the Toronto roster, and I think Brooklyn is not going to be as bad as a lot of us think.
Who thinks Brooklyn's gonna be bad? Brooklyn's gonna be really good.
No.
Like what?
All right,
You think it's
chat.
gonna be really good?
Chat.
Yes.
Do you think Toronto? I know y'all think we're gonna kill both teams. That's not what I'm asking. Do you think Toronto's roster and Brooklyn's roster are formidable? I think this Atlantic division is gonna be. Who's the ragdoll in the Atlantic division?
Well, who's coaching Toronto now?
They have a new coach.
Right.
Where did he come from?
So we don't even know how they're going to play for one.
We don't know how they're going to play.
And Toronto always plays us tough, no matter who's playing on their team.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, I'm glad Van Vliet's not there to lock down Brunson, though. Van Vliet gave JB fits.
Yeah,
man.
He did. He did.
From that standpoint, I'm sure he'll be thrilled to death to see Schroeder there instead.
Oh, Schroeder ain't no slouch now on the defensive end either.
No, but he didn't do. Ain't no Van Vliet's like kryptonite to Brunson though.
We'll see. It might be we talking all this stuff. It might be Dante DiVincenzo.
Right.
With that.
Yeah. Yeah. It may be. I just feel like DiVincenzo has to find his way against other clones. The Knicks just have so many players that, how do you stand out? How do you stand out and you're, all of them getting 24 minutes or whatever it is?
I think if his shot is falling, he'll stand out.
He already has a head start. Tibbs like him. So that already, kind of guarantees him a lot of playing time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Which Atlantic Division player is most likely to break out? So in the article in the Atlantic, David Aldridge had Scotty Barnes of Toronto. I forgot to get the first name. If somebody knows Robbins, he picked Mikal Bridges of the Brooklyn Nets, and Weiss picked Quentin Grimes, obviously, of the New York Knicks. But we're not limited to that. Which Atlantic Division player will have a breakout season, in your opinion?
Going around me first.
Yeah.
For me, I think the obvious choice for me will be Bridges. Like it's going to be a full season with him being the man in Brooklyn after playing like third fiddle with the Suns. Like he's already had a few games where he scored a lot of points. He's one of the best defenders in the league, and he never misses a game. So my answer will definitely be Bridges. Like I don't see anybody else on that team taking a ball out of his hands when it comes to scoring. So as long as he has the scoring numbers, everything else he does very, very well. Like the scoring was the one question mark that a lot of people have from him, just because he didn't have a chance. He never had the ball. But like I said with Schroeder, if you give if you give Bridges the ball, yeah, he'll I think he'll do good. Like I'm going to say he's going to make the All-Star team.
Wow.
But I guess it depends on how good, like what their record is too. Like if Brooklyn's sorry that he's not going to make the All-Star team, but in terms of sheer numbers and what he do on both sides of the court, I think Bridges is my answer.
Yeah, and he's an example of when a player expands their role either on their current team or on another team. Some of them take off and some of them get exposed. Right. He's one that has taken off out of the shadows of Durant and
Booker.
What's his name?
Not Durant.
Booker.
Yeah. That doesn't always happen, but he's one of those that you're like, wow.
Right.
He was playing a role, but he had more to his game. And now that he has the freedom.
Right. There's a few examples.
Look out.
Yep.
There are a few examples. Harden was one, right?
I remember, I'm old, so Tracy McGrady is definitely one of them, coming from Toronto to Orlando. But he was really young. But Vince Carter was the man on Toronto, and Tracy McGrady was more known as a defender. But then he went to Orlando and, became Tracy McGrady, became T-Mac. So
Right.
That's just one example, but it's a few more.
Yeah, definitely. And it can happen the other way as well. Jeff?
He can get
go ahead. No, not him. Somebody can go to another team and get, be like, he's going to another team.
He could get exposed too. That's what I'm saying, because he's never done it for a whole season. Kind of like people didn't know what Brunson was capable of for a whole season.
That's true.
So
you're right. You're right.
Well, I think Bridges is a great answer, but just to keep things a little bit different, I'm going to go with Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, you stole my answer.
I'm sorry. Okay, I won't go with Tyrese Maxey.
It's fine.
I love Maxey's game. I just, especially if they do something with Harden, I think he could see an expanded role. And I think that kid can flat out ball. I love watching Maxey's game. I think he's a very underrated player. And everything you said about Bridges is ditto with Maxey for me. I mean, here's a guy who's playing third fiddle, but every time he's asked to step up and do something big, he does it. I mean, I really like his game, and I think he could be in for a monster year.
And he's gonna need to be, because even if Harden shows up, he has a way of showing up and not showing up if he's not happy. Right. So I think Maxey, whether Harden is there or not, really needs to. If Philly is going to finish anywhere in that top three, I really think Maxey is going to have to take the next step. I don't really see Harden putting his all into performing for Philly if he's there. I could be mistaken. Yeah. Ajay?
Well, so I like the Tyrese Maxey answer, because I do feel like he's going to have a great season, but I'm going to stay home on this one. I'm going to say Emmanuel Quickly.
Okay.
Nice.
I'm gonna say Emmanuel quickly. If Emmanuel quickly, I mean, he's ready to bust Emmanuel quickly. I think if given the playing time, the only problem is you don't know what Tibbs is gonna do with his rotation. But we know he likes quickly. We know he likes his playing style, and he gives him minute. Like that's one of his favorite guys to close with. I think he's gonna have a monster year if everything falls right for him, like in terms of playing time and position, and his role is defined on the team. He knows what he's doing. I think he's gonna have a very, very good year. So
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I also think quickly is going to have a good year. I thought he was going to have a good year anyway, but after that bomb, after that egg he laid in the playoffs, just I don't know the type of player he is, but the type of player I sense he gonna right out the gate, he's coming out. He's gonna be ready. I think Grimes is gonna take a leap, but I mean a step. He's gonna take the next step. But a breakout, we talk about a breakout season, like whoa, like that type of season, not like taking the logical next step. If I had to pick a Nick, I would put my money on quickly. What are your thoughts about Scotty Barnes as a likely breakout player?
I'm not a huge Scotty Barnes fan. I
love Scotty Barnes, man.
I don't know.
He can't shoot though. But
if
he get that down,
if he get
that down,
yeah,
his shot don't be falling. That's the problem.
Yeah. Geoff, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I haven't seen a ton of Toronto, and I know Scotty Barnes. I've heard his name since he was a rookie, and there was all this buzz and hype. He's the next it, and maybe he is. I haven't seen it yet, and that doesn't mean that it's not there either. I probably, in fact, by saying that, I probably just guaranteed that he's the player who takes the massive leap out of everybody. But I'm just not a huge Scotty Barnes fan. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's amazing.
If he gets that shot, he'll be another Mikal Bridges if he can shoot, because he plays defense. He can handle the ball and bring it up the court as well, but the shooting is just an issue. So you're talking about two players who can play both sides of the court very well. Yeah, but he's on another team. He's on another team.
Of course he is.
And they like to I don't know what this new coach is going to do, but Nick Nurse didn't mind him handling the ball. And if he has that role, you do wonder what that does for Schroeder's impact.
Right.
Anything else on that?
Nah.
Okay.
Now we on the Atlantic.
We stand in all of these questions are about the Atlantic Division.
Oh, okay.
Which athletic? All right, I will fix that up. But which Atlantic Division trade is most likely to backfire? And so we had the Celtics trading Smart, which we talked about, and bringing in KP. The Knicks trading Obi Toppin and creating, an issue for some, and the backup power forward position creating an issue for us in terms of height. Toronto trading Van Vliet. Which trade is most likely to backfire? But let me fix this up.
AJ, I think it's on you.
Yep.
Hey, all right, I'll go first. I have two in mind.
Okay, go ahead.
So as much as KP's trade I thought was probably the best one in the Atlantic Division, that's the one also most likely to backfire.
Makes sense.
I mean, it's they both could be true at the same time, because
Yes,
if it doesn't
they
pan
can.
out with him, it would be a disaster if that doesn't work out the way we see that it can work out offensively. I mean, if Boston, if defense becomes a problem for Boston, then everybody's going to be pointing to that trade not having Marcus Smart. And if, God forbid, Kristaps Porzingis get injured and he's unable to be on the floor, I mean, listen, he's injury prone, so that's very likely to happen. I hate to say, but that's like more likely backfire. The second one, of course, I think you guys can guess what the second one is, right?
Well, we're talking most likely, but go ahead. We'll let you.
Honorable mention. An honorable mention.
Okay.
Obi Toppins that they threw away for 2 second-round picks.
Okay. And why do you think how can that backfire for the Knicks?
Because we're going to be playing teams where we have very small guys. Listen, Obi was not he was a big body in there. Okay. Maybe we didn't cultivate that. I don't know. Maybe he didn't use it that way, but sometimes it just helps to have that size in there. So we really, unless one of the, lesser known backup four guys come up and play well, that could backfire. People, especially. So it's not just a losing OB, but losing OB for nothing, pretty much. People are gonna look at it like, well, what did we do? What do we get? But and I'm gonna keep track of those two. I don't want to say worthless second round picks, but I'm gonna make it my job to keep track of what happened with those 2 second round picks that we got for Obi Toppins. If
you're gonna forget all about them picks, they like 5 years from now.
Nah, I'm gonna put a reminder somewhere. OB picks.
Like,
tattoo it on his arm.
Well, what if we get a Mitchell Robinson out of that?
If we get a Mitchell out of that, well, I mean, let's see what happens, Queen. I'm gonna keep track. I'm gonna keep track of them.
Okay, all right. Okay.
There's somebody in the 7th grade right now that we gonna get.
Oh gosh. All right. Geoff?
Again, I don't think most of these moves are kind of minor in my opinion. I mean, Kristaps is the obvious choice because it's the biggest name thing, but to me it's kind of like shuffling the deck chairs. Most of these moves I don't see as really massive improvements, but I don't really see them as massive downgrades either. Maybe the change in chemistry does some good. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I if I had gun to my head, if I had to pick one, I think losing Van Vliet in Toronto is most likely to backfire. That would be my guess.
Not losing Marcus Smart?
Well, I think Marcus Smart is terrific as a defender. I think that could backfire as well, but I just didn't want to answer the same thing as everybody else. Right. We get a little bit of variety in the program. I think we talked about Marcus Smart a little bit, but I'm on record of saying that could. But again, I'm also operating under the premise that everything the Celtics do turns up roses. So, that they'll find a way to, the leprechauns will prevail on that front again, because that's just how that works. But I wish I could explain it, but I can't. But I think Van Vliet's a terrific player. I think he'll improve Houston, and I'm not saying Schroeder's a bad player. I just don't know if he can do the same things that Van Vliet did for that team, and maybe he can. But I think that may be where you see the biggest backfire.
Okay. All right. Geoff, I mean,
Jerrell.
Well, I'm going to be different because we've talked about Boston enough. I'm going to go with James Harden, and that trade hasn't even happened yet. I think regardless of what they do, I think they handled that situation terribly. So I don't think James Harden is going to play for the Sixers. So regardless of what they do, they're not going to get fair value for him, and I think it will backfire on him.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Geoff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think the Knicks can overtake Philadelphia in this division.
Yep, me too.
From your lips to God's ears. Let's do it.
Yeah. For me, I'm gonna go with the Marcus Smart trade for Boston. I just think that toughness, that the defense, the toughness, and I get it. Offensively, he may be somewhat of a liability in the playoffs, but you need a little moxie, to get through the playoffs as well. And the Knicks have that. I'm not worried about the Knicks. Miami has that. Boston doesn't really have that, in my opinion, without Marcus Smart. So,
and Smart was a
shall
lot
see.
like Quickly for them too, as he was the quarterback of the defense. It wasn't just what he did one-on-one that was important. He's all over the floor, help defense wise. He's one of the people who makes sure that everybody gets in the right position, and those aren't things that just automatically happen. Not everybody does that. Not every player does that. And it's
Right.
definitely not something you typically see from stars like Brown and Tatum. So somebody else is going to have to fill in that void. And is Derek White that guy? I don't think so. Maybe he is, but I think there's a lot to be said for the job that he does in getting his players in the right spots to play better defense. And Emmanuel Quickly does the exact same thing for the Knicks.
Yeah. I put out the audio podcast, and I'll drop the link in the chat. And I talked about that. I think Quickly's defense is underrated. A lot of Knicks fans are sleeping on Quickly's defense, but go back. Well, you don't even have to go back. The season is starting again. Just watch him for a few possessions, just on the defensive end. Focus on him, follow him around. I don't know, a few possessions, an entire quarter. He's underrated.
Yep.
He really is underrated.
Sometimes you see him, like, I didn't mean cut you off, Steph. Sometimes with IQ, he's the only person talking on the floor on defense. Sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
And his defense started coming around his second year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten better and better, each year. I just need him to come out of the gate a little better this season. All right. Which player or coach has the most to prove in the Atlantic Division? Now, the writers of the Atlantic thought it was Mazzulla of the Celtics. Robbins thought it was Harden of Philadelphia. Obviously, we don't have to go with them. Which player or coach has the most to prove in the Atlantic Division? And you can also, which player has the most to prove on the Knicks, if that's not the player that has the most to prove in the Atlantic Division? Let's start with Geoff this time.
Okay.
Julius Randle.
Oh.
Julius Randle got rated 59th. 59th. Best player in the NBA by whatever stupid. Right. That doesn't even deserve mention because they have him at 59. There's not 59 NBA players that are better than Julius Randle. He's coming off an injury. He's an all-NBA player. He's got a point guard who keeps him to the shot diet that he needs. If the ankle is healthy, that man has the most to prove. And it isn't about winning 50 games and getting the 4th seed. It's about getting to the playoffs, showing that you can be a big-time playoff performer, that we can see Julius Randle, regular season Julius Randle in the playoffs, that we can see 24, 10, and 5 from this guy. And so we don't have to worry about bringing in another star because he's already in the building. To me, that's the man who has the most to prove. That's the man who has the most to prove.
Wow.
I think he's up to the challenge, but I think he has the most to prove, and I think he's going to show and prove.
Right. And that changes everything for the Knicks. As far as our ceiling, I'm not talking regular season. That changes everything for the Knicks. Geoff, Jerrell, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, if I was going next, Geoff stole my answer.
Oh, you were going to say Randall is? I'm surprised.
Yeah. I mean, all offseason we talked about how bad his playoff run was. So to me, it almost has to be Randall. Like, I mean, people could say Embiid too because he kind of got the same kind of stigma put on him, and I mean, he did just win the MVP. So I don't know. It could be either or, but I'm picking Julius Randle just because you asked about a Knicks player also, but Julius Randle would be my answer for both of them for all the reasons that Geoff said, and his playoff run. Like, we already know what he's capable of. We just don't know if he's capable of doing the exact same thing in the playoffs when it counts. So until he does that, he definitely has the most to prove, and we have the biggest fan base. So he has the most to prove to us that he can, handle his business in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Randall never even crossed my mind, but these are great points, because when you think about it, as Knick fans, we often talk about needing a superstar. So basically, what are we saying?
Right.
We don't have one.
That's basically an undercover way of saying, we don't have one. So that's wow. I never thought of that, but that's a good point.
And as much as I love Jalen Brunson, he is yet to have an All-Star appearance or All NBA appearance. So, we got to slow down on him too.
Yeah. He has to, like I said in the beginning, it's fair. As well as he played last season and in the playoffs, it's fair to ask, was that just a good season? Was that just a good playoff run? Or is that who he is? I believe it's who he is, but I still think it's a fair question.
Right.
Yeah. Ajay?
Okay. So my answers are two Knicks. I really care about the Knicks. Two Knicks, right?
Has the most to prove in the entire Atlantic Division. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't. Obviously, I pay 100% attention to the Knicks and not so much the other teams, except for like how they fare up against us when we play them. Right. Coach Tom Thibodeau have a lot to prove, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
This team was basically Leon Rose say, Tom Thibodeau, tell me the players you want, and I'll get. These are Tom Thibodeau players. We've had that conversation, and I have a problem with that, because if they fire Tibbs now, they get rid of him. They stuck with all his players, and I feel like they give him the players he want. Now he's got to go out and prove that, okay, they give him the tools he wanted. He's got to perform, and I don't know what that means. If it means Eastern Conference Final, or if that means a championship, but we'll know, because at some point when the season first starts, James Dolan's going to come and say, this year, this is what we expect. Like he did last year. Last year, he says, well, our goal is to make it to the playoffs this year. We went to the second round. So because they built this team specifically for Tom Thibodeau, I feel he has a lot to prove, right? That's one.
What, can I ask you a question?
Sure. Oh, yeah, I know. Tom Thibodeau, sure.
I had a question too, but I was going to let you finish.
Is there a difference between giving a construction worker a screwdriver and a drill?
Yes.
There is a difference. Okay.
Yes.
That's all.
But so if the construction worker is going with a screwdriver, he can't perform. Then you give him a drill. He can't perform. You like, you know what? Maybe you can't get out of here. You can't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But a DiVincenzo is not an Embiid or a Giannis or a you gave him his players, but you gave him screwdrivers. Come on.
No, but you gave him who he wanted. Okay,
wait, I'm sure he wanted other players.
Yeah,
you got who he was able to get. I'm sure he wanted other players. They was only able to give. Listen, I know you want Embiid and you want Donovan Mitchell. We can't get those players for you. We're gonna give you DiVincenzo. I mean, come on. Don't act like Paul George in his prime walked through the door. I would be right with you. I would be if Paul George, I would be right with you. Embiid, right with you. Giannis, right with you. DiVincenzo.
Tibbs got his players. He needs to prove that he can perform his players.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. You give him his players.
I know, because you got something. you got something in on Tom Thibodeau. So
No,
you
I
give him a
no.
peanut and you expecting him now to
That's no.
we
I
need to win a championship because you
no.
brought in DiVincenzo. I mean,
No,
come on.
Queen. I gave him peanuts. I expect him to make peanut butter. That's it.
Okay.
And
Well,
he's
if you
got to make
expecting the
peanut butter.
team to be what it was last, sure. But you can't just bring in DiVincenzo and be like, all right now, expectations are through the roof now. We got you, DiVincenzo. Come on.
I never would have
We
thought.
got Josh Hart. We got DiVincenzo. Like those are the guys he wants. Those are we call them Tibbs guys, Tibbs players. That's what we call them.
But don't you think there's levels to his players?
Of
Tier
course, there's
1,
levels.
tier 2. Okay, so what tier do you think DiVincenzo is?
Queen, let me ask you: if we fail to make the playoffs, right?
That's different. That's different.
Or if we're fighting in the plane, you're gonna say, well, that's because we didn't get him beat.
No. We're talking about levels now. So what are you saying when you're saying he has the most to prove? What? So if the Knicks don't get to the NBA Finals, that's a problem because you gave him DiVincenzo?
No, I specifically said I don't know what that means in terms. Specifically said that.
Come on, you got to know what it means now.
No,
you're gonna say he has the most to prove, but you don't. You don't know the criteria.
We have to do better because we give him the players that he wants, the players that he will play. They gave him Obi Toppins. He didn't want to play Obi Toppins. They gave him, I don't know, Campbell, whoever. He didn't want to play. They gave him the guys he wanted. He wanted those guys.
Lower level guys. I agree with you, but those are like tier 3 guys.
Yeah, but he's known to get the most out of guys. But that doesn't change anything. He's got to prove. The second Knick, I think, has a lot to prove is RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett was the third pick. Okay, he could pretend he doesn't. He's all right. He's whatever. He's not listening to. So listen, these guys are listening to the media. They are listening to everybody. They're listening to the talk. They can hear the noise. Okay, RJ Barrett knows that everybody's looking at him like, dude, you're the number 3 pick. Like, what are you doing? Like and this is going to be year 5. He has to prove that he was worth that pick. He has to prove that he was worth that contract that they preemptively gave him last year. And he has to prove that his high usage is worth it. Like he's getting the ball a lot. He has to prove that all those were right decisions by the organization. He has a lot to prove, I think. So those are my 2 Knicks. There may be other people in the Atlantic division, but I'm focused on the Knicks.
Well, the Knicks are in the Atlantic division. You good?
I know. So
yeah, the Knicks are in the Atlantic. Yeah, you're good. For me in the Atlantic division, I think the player that has the most to prove is Joel Embiid. He's not on the
right.
He's not on the Knicks. He hasn't gotten out of the second round, and he's had a team around him. Right? It's not like he was the best player on the team that didn't have other players. And it's not like you can say, all right, we lost this series, but it wasn't because of me. I showed up and I did what I usually do, and I took it to another level. And if we didn't lose, you're going to have to look at the other guys, not me. We can't say that about Embiid. So I think he has the most to prove in the Atlantic division. For the Knicks, I guess I'll go with RJ Barrett as well. You could go with Hart. I know somebody in the chat said Hart, in terms of proving that he's worth the contract he got. But for me, I'm going to say RJ Barrett has a lot to prove. And I think one of the things that he has to prove is that he fits with Brunson and Randall, because I think those guys are here to stay long term. And that means that his role is going to change a little bit. I do think he plays best with the ball in his hand, but I'm not sure how much he's going to be able to do that on this team. And so now you're asking him to play off of those guys. And he's not a really, other than his second season, he hasn't been a good catch and shoot. He hasn't been a good shooter off the catch. And maybe that'll change. Next season. But I think he does have to prove that he can be that wing that the Knicks need to play with Jalen Brunson and and Julius Randle. And I'm not going to get into how he does it, that he needs to defend more, he needs to shoot more, he needs to. We'll know it when we see it, and we'll be able to say that fits. Okay, that fits with what we're trying to do. Because there were times when it just looks like, because he plays best with the ball in his hand, when he got the ball, it was like, all right, I'm going to take it to the half court and I'm going to bring it, I'm going to bring it down and I'm going to take it to the basket. I just didn't see a lot of, some would argue there wasn't a lot of fluidity in our offense, period. But it definitely wasn't a lot of fluidity between Brunson, Randall, and RJ. So yeah, I'm trying to think. Is there anybody else I would pick? I'm not going to say Randall has a lot to prove, but I do think that he does need to prove that he can perform in the playoffs. And listen, maybe he would have proved that if he wasn't injured in the last playoffs, right? So he's going to have to prove that, that he can do that. I think it's fair to say, because of the injury, that the jury is still out. I think that's fair to say. So I don't know if that ranks, if he has more to prove than RJ or if he has more to prove than Embiid, but I'll tell you this. Him proving that means more to us,
right,
than RJ proving he can play with those two. Right? If Randall proves that changes the whole conversation for the Knicks. The players we're looking for, how we play, it just changes. It just changes every day. Everything. I don't think IQ has proven himself. I think IQ still has more to prove too. He has to prove he can play in the playoffs as well.
Nah, yeah, he hasn't proven.
But I don't know if I would say he had, out of all of the Knicks, he has the most to prove, but he still has something to prove.
Right.
Jerrell, you was going to say something?
I was just going to say, I got a quick honorable mention real quick.
Oh, sure.
I think this player, the only reason none of us said him because everybody, that's how much he fell off.
Mm-hmm.
But the real answer probably for the whole league is probably Ben Simmons.
Oh, he's in the Atlantic Division. Yes.
Yeah. See, a lot of people forget him, but I mean, this guy was an all-star. And he fell off of a cliff in his prime. So if he actually wants to, I don't know, like keep his NBA career alive, then yeah, he has a lot to prove.
Worst contract in the NBA with what he did last year. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I forgot about Simmons. He's still playing.
Right. Brooklyn probably forgot about him
too. They don't want to think about him anyway. They're like, Bridges, Johnson.
Right. Like, he doesn't even have to play that well to win like comeback player of the year. That's how bad he's been.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to get back to all-star level in order to win that award next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that's true. Simmons has to prove he can walk at this point. For sure. All right. The last question about the division: can the Knicks win it? Can the Knicks win the Atlantic Division? Yes, no, and why? Or why not?
Who's first?
I'll go first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, they can. Short answer: yes, they can. Why? Because of all the things we talked about, right? KP, that may be something that comes back to haunt them, right? So that may hurt Boston instead of helping them. Okay, so that takes Boston out. That we could overtake that. And Philly, we don't know what the hell they're doing with James Harden. Like Jerrell said, they may get less of that's a trade. They may have to trade him for something that for a lesser that they would have gotten if they had traded him earlier in the offseason. So maybe if they trade James Harden for, I don't know, for scraps, for picks, for whatever, that kind of we able to overtake them. In Brooklyn, I know people underestimate Brooklyn. I don't. I think we're neck and neck in Brooklyn. So because obviously the continuity that we have, and we have a core that's been there longer. I think that give us a little bit of edge over Brooklyn, and talent wise, we're probably on par with them. We're probably right there with them too. Okay, and the Raptors.
Right? You don't think we're better than Brooklyn?
Yeah, we are. I mean, yeah, we are. Yeah, I checked that. I think we're better than Brooklyn. But I think they're not as bad as that. What I'm saying is
I
they're not
agree
as
with you.
bad as
Yeah,
people think
I agree
they're
with
gonna
that.
be.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna be where we sleepwalk through this and we're gonna overtake Brooklyn. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
I
But yeah,
agree.
we are better than them, talent wise, and structure and continuity and all that stuff. And the Raptors, another team not to take lightly, but they don't scare me. I think we could overtake them. Like the one problem we had with them last year was Van Fleet. He's not there no more. So I'm not worried about them. So I think, I think we could win if things fall right for us. Yeah, I think we'd be able to lead that division.
Thoughts on? Oh, you mentioned Boston already. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. I hate this. It pains me to say it, but Boston's the team to beat until proven otherwise. I gotta say they're the favorite to win the division again. And are the Knicks capable of overtaking them? Yes, but I think the entire division is good. I think it's going to be a difficult division. I think. Actually, I'll say this. I think it's Boston, New York, Philly, and then Brooklyn and Toronto. That's how I would rate them if I had to go 1 through 5 on the division. That's it. And there's not a lot of gap in between any of those spots either. But Boston, if with KP is healthy, they present a lot of problems. They can just score points. I mean, I don't know how you stop them. I don't.
Right.
I don't know how.
Yeah, and I know people aren't high on Toronto, but I like Toronto's roster. I think it's really really balanced.
It's talented for sure.
Yeah.
Never can tell how that new coach is going to do though. New system, is that going to be a detriment? Is it going to be a plus? It's hard to judge how they're going to respond. When we haven't seen enough of it to know. But again, I think once Pirtle was in the lineup, Toronto was, they were missing a 5 for the whole first half of the season. True. And then once he came, I thought that they were much better. So
yes,
it may just be a case of, now that we're a more balanced roster, now we're going to play better. That's a very realistic possibility.
Yeah.
I just like the Knicks roster. I'm really high on who we have. I like our continuity. I'm a big believer in Brunson. I think Randall's gonna come back. We're not reliant on RJ Barrett, but he can be good for us. So he's either going to perform or he's going to see his role soaked up by other players' usage in a way that we haven't really had that luxury before.
Right.
I think, I've told you already, I think Josh Hart can do everything that Obi can do better. So I don't really worry about the backup 4 spot as much as some others. I think if you play RJ and Hart on the floor at the same time, you can mitigate some of the size against backup units. Also, I think there are ways around it, but I just really, I guess I'm a homer, but I really like what the Knicks have. And I think they're going to be a really good team. I think they're capable of winning 50 plus games, and that's going to be near the top of the division. Because I don't think there are any 60 win teams in the Eastern Conference this year.
Don't let Freezy hear you. Don't let Freezy hear you.
I just don't see. I don't think.
I don't see it either.
I don't think both. And the reason I don't think anybody's going to do it is not because they're not good teams, but because there are so many good teams.
Correct. Including Orlando. You're not going to be able to feed off of Orlando.
Orlando, Atlanta. If Detroit is healthy, I think they're going to be better. I don't think they're ready to make a playoff push, but they've got a lot of nice young pieces. So I think every night is a tough ball game. But the good news is the Knicks are designed for that kind of a war. That's how this team is put together for night in, night out, being ready for the battle that day. And
Right.
so, I think we're going to be right there.
Yeah. JJ, the Nets have Dinwiddie. I don't know if you consider him a point guard, but that he'll be running at the point guard for them.
Don't
I'm
they
not
got
sure.
Dennis Smith Jr. now too?
Yeah, and you know what? Dennis Smith Jr. has found his place.
Yep.
He's found his place. He's not a high flying guy. If I watched him a few times for Charlotte in place of LaMelo Ball, who was injured, so he didn't start. I think what's the guy name? The player name that Rozier, I believe, started, and Dennis Smith would come off the bench behind him,
Right.
and he ran that team,
Mm-hmm.
and he played defense, and he was really good in terms of getting steals. So he's found his place as a backup point guard, and he's not a bad one as well. His shooting has never really come around. He's still a little streaky, but in terms of running a team and defense and steals, I was really surprised at how much his game has changed.
Right.
I think he's going to help Brooklyn.
Right.
I don't like Dinwiddie.
But he
You know,
JJ, I mean Jay, he's gonna start. He's not a he might be a 6 man, but he's starting for them, right?
yeah. AJ is a menace to society, man. He has nobody that's speak negative or do anything negative to the Knicks.
Jerrell, you know why I don't like Dinwiddie.
Yes, I know you why you
Right. I hear you, JJ. You might not see him as a starting point guard, but I believe he's gonna start. Dennis Smith Jr. is not starting over him.
Nah. I think Dinwiddie will start.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he does a good job everywhere he goes. By the way, I mean, he's a good player. He's annoying. You want to punch him in the face, but I mean, he's a good player.
Right. Jerrell?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible that we can win. But like everybody said, Boston is obviously the team to beat. They've been the number one team in our division for a few years now. But yeah, like I said, I always say that we was always the youngest team in the playoffs last year. And our guys didn't shoot well. So, and Julius Randle wasn't playing like himself. So if everything breaks right for us, not saying that like some of our young guys got a pop and all that, but if guys actually hit shots, we have Dante DiVincenzo now, so we can have another ball handler on the court. Yeah, I would like to see us in the playoffs again and see what we do. Like I think we would have went to the Eastern Conference Finals if we hit shots, and that's with a hobbled Julius Randle. So if Julius Randle, if everybody is healthy, if we come out clean after the All-Star break and have a little run and have a healthy team come playoff time, then yeah, I think the Atlantic Division will be, it'll be between us and Boston. And I think we're a better team than Boston, going down the line, but they just have, two of the best wings in the entire league. So, dealing with them is already a headache, but I think we have an all-around better, team.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is between Boston and New York. I'm just not confident in Philly at all, and I don't need to be. They just got a lot. It's like a shit show over there. There's just too much going on. And I actually don't want Harden to be traded. I like that drama to continue for the entire season. I want him to come in overweight, and I want him to half-ass it when he plays. So, yeah. So leave Philly, where they are. I agree. Boston. I think I have Boston. This is really tough. I know there's some Knick fans and definitely non-Knick fans who's like, we're being homers if you think it's close. but I could see a world where it's close. I could see a world where it's close. I could see a world where, KP is injured most of the season and you don't have Smart. And you don't have Grant Williams, right?
Right.
And I could see a world where RJ gets it together quickly, takes a leap. Grimes doesn't even have to take a leap, just takes the next step, and the Knicks are there. So I'm gonna still have the Knicks finishing. I think they really can finish first, but they have their question marks, but we have our question marks too. Can Brunson repeat what he did last season? Can I think Randall will repeat? I don't have any concerns about Randall in the regular season. Will us being small bite us? I think I agree with Geoff. I mean, yeah, with Geoff in that respect. Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. I haven't looked up Grimes statistically, but those two guys are in the top percentile, 70s, 80s in rebounding, defensive, offensive rebound. We're not losing much with those guys on the floor. Sure, you want to have tall guys and they look the part, but then they don't rebound. Or they look the part, but they're not defending. Oh, this one is 6'7", 6'8", got long arms, got a wingspan of 7 feet. And he's getting toasted. Right?
Yep.
And then you got somebody like Josh Hart, who's 6'5", and I'm not saying he's a great defender, but he can defend out on out on that wing, and he's gonna rebound. What did Spoelstra say? He said some guys get 50-50 balls. He get 30-70. He get 30-70 balls. So this is somebody, no matter where you play him, he will fly into traffic,
Yep.
and get a rebound. So it may be right. We're undersized, but those guys can still defend, even though they're giving up inches, and they can still rebound, even though they're giving up inches.
Right.
It's been a while since I saw the stat, so this may be off, but I think the Knicks were on a 55-win pace when Josh Hart joined the team last year.
Right.
Think about that. And now you have him back, and you added DiVincenzo, who's a shooter. I mean, let's be honest. What did we've been clamoring for? A shooter that you can play because he plays defense. I mean, Fournier was a shooter, but Fournier can't defend like DiVincenzo can defend. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I hear you, Paris Duggar, but guess what? If you have somebody taller and you take 2 dribbles and they can't keep up with you, you got an open shot also. That's an open shot. If I got somebody slower than me defending me, and I take 2 dribbles to the right and they don't have the lateral movement, or I fake and I take 2 dribbles past them and they don't have the lateral movement, that's an open shot also.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. They'll be able to shoot over, but if you have somebody who can't defend and can't move laterally, you're going to get an open shot as well. And you're not going to even be shooting over them. You're going to be shooting in the clear. So you'll get it. You'll get it either way.
I mean, the only difference is us losing Obi.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He wasn't a great defender.
Yeah, I'm about to say he wasn't a great defender, rebounder, or used his size to his advantage anyway. So, yeah.
And you're not look, Julius Randle soaks up 36 minutes a game. Like 36. So what are we really talking about? We were talking about 10 minutes a game, 12 minutes a game. Look, Josh Hart can handle that for 12 minutes a game. We're not asking him to go up against the best power forwards in the league for all night long. Now, if we have an injury to Julius Randle, then that might be a different topic. But I mean, if Randle's healthy, he's going to be playing, especially in crunch time. And then, he can handle any bruiser power forward you want to put out there.
One thing I do agree with, though, I do want another backup power forward, though. I would rather not have Josh Hart play the power forward. So I get it, but I'm just saying, I just don't agree with losing Obi means that we're that much smaller just because he was tall. because he didn't really use his height to his advantage anyway, especially when it came to defensive rebounding. So, but I do want to. I want somebody else that's tall.
But not just tall though. Like for
Yeah,
me, I'm gonna take somebody. If you had to tell me somebody that's tall and can't defend,
right.
and somebody who's giving up inches and can defend and can rebound,
True.
give me the short person over the person who's looking the part, looking like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be able to defend somebody, and they getting left, right? But
Right.
yeah, so I agree with you. If we can find a 6'8", 6'10" guy, particularly a veteran guy, that's a Tibbs guy, Ajay, and that can get rotation minutes behind Julius Randle, I'm all for it. I'm just not for just putting in somebody just because they're tall.
Just sign
Right.
Taj Gibson. You just described Taj Gibson.
But I don't know if the Taj Gibson we saw 2 years ago when he played with us, is he still that same guy?
If he ain't that Taj Gibson, I don't want Taj Gibson.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you don't think he's dropped off a little? It was 2 years ago.
We can't have a worse Taj Gibson than what he was. Not like he was good when we had him. So if he's worse, no, hell no. That's my man and everything, but no.
Right. And old head, how many 6'10" power forwards is on the second team? That's posting, that's posting up. I mean, and if that does happen, bring Julius in early, bring in Sims,
I think that would work if this was back in the day. If this was like 10 years ago, I think NBA teams would be doing that. But since this is 2023, the way that they be playing now, like much as I would like somebody taller and a backup power forward, Josh Hart probably would be formidable in today's NBA just because he's a good rebounder for his size. But yeah, if I was running the league or how we used to like watching basketball, I should say, the hell yeah, he's too small. Like I wouldn't have anybody, that short playing the power forward. But that's just not how the game is now. Like that's just how we used to like it or how we would want it now. But things change. We could tell that by what we was talking about the FIBA stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How they used the roster and the people that was on the roster in the first place. Like Jaren Jackson was like playing the 5 and he averaged 2 rebounds a game. Well,
but he was tall. But he was tall though.
I'm sorry, 2.8. I gotta remember I told you to round, round it up. He was getting 3 rebounds, not 2. So I'm gonna give him that one. But he was 2.8. So he was the reigning defensive player of the year. So that's like kind of telling.
Yeah. Listen, in a perfect world, I'm with everybody on this panel. I'm with everybody in the chat. In a perfect world, give me a taller guy playing power forward that can rebound and defend the position. And if you can hit a 3, it's dry. Woo, right? Whoa.
Then he's not a backup anymore.
Right. Right. If you can do all of that, you're not a backup. I'm with you guys. I want that too. But if we don't have that, I don't want nobody out there just looking tall. I don't want nobody out there just looking tall. I'd rather take some inches off of that if you can play.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt. Yes, Cody, you're right. In theory, it's usually better to be a taller player playing basketball. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But tall and not getting the job done, or giving up inches and getting the job done.
Right. People said Isaac Okoro was going to be like checking Jalen Brunson during that Cleveland series.
Mm-hmm. He was. Until he busted up that ankle. Until Jalen Brunson put a knot on that left ankle. And then we didn't see him anymore.
Right. You can be tall all you want. You'll get cooked.
Went into hibernation after that.
Yeah, they couldn't play him. But that was also because he couldn't shoot. They just true. You're not defending and you're not giving us anything on the offensive. He became unplayable.
Right.
Yeah. I would love that. I would just take a flyer, Sherwin, I know he has an injury history. He's been out for like 12 years. He just came back. But I would still take a flyer on Jonathan Isaac just to see.
Nah.
I just hate the fact that every time we talk about a player coming on the Knicks, they have an injury history.
I know,
But
because
if they
that's all
didn't
we
have-
could get.
Yes, right. If they didn't have injury histories, then we wouldn't be getting them on the Knicks, though. That's yeah.
That's a good use of the Fournier contract, though.
Yeah.
That would be.
I like that idea. I think that's outside the box thinking. Now, I don't know if Thibodeau would add him to the rotation or not. I mean, I think he'd have some work to do. I think he might, he'd be behind Deuce McBride probably in the rotation, but knowing Tibbs. But
If Tibbs doesn't play somebody that size,
Who can defend?
yeah,
if
he can
he's
defend
healthy,
and
if
he can
he's healthy,
shoot and he can shoot at that size if he's
and block
healthy.
shots.
Yeah, I'm with Ajay. Then he got some more stuff to prove.
Yeah,
Like, if he
No,
if you
doubt.
don't play him, like
Yeah, no
he
doubt.
seems like a Tibbs type of player. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
yeah, he does.
He
You're
does.
right. You're right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The coolest 718 didn't play for 3 years, comes back after about 10 games. He's out again. How many games did Fournier play? You know what I mean? It's not like we're giving up. Who you giving up? Fournier.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be playing that many minutes anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, salute to Josh.
Yeah. We were just about to talk about that, Josh. Any thoughts on the NBA resting policy? I agree with the league taking this stand, but I feel we should rest some players at times. Thoughts? Adam Silver had, I guess it was a press conference, and he said that initially they're going to take it slow because in order to trigger these fines, there has to be an investigation. So I think he said they're going to take it slow because he's also concerned about kind of taking this decision making out of the team's hands. So he said he's a little concerned about that. They're going to take it slow at first and then I guess ramp it up if they feel like it's happening. It's happening a lot. But let's.
I don't know the rule though.
I'm getting ready to. I was going to ask any more thoughts on the Knicks in the Atlantic Division before I get to the rules. All right.
I think we got it covered.
Okay. So the policy states, okay. Oh, I just want to make sure. All right. So this is only, they already had a policy in place. This is just stronger. I think they had a policy in place back in 2016, 2017. Teams would get fined $100,000 or something like that. The fines are stiffer and the rules are more defined. So basically, your star players have to play.
Right.
That's basically what it is. And who they consider a star is an all-star. If you made the all-star all NBA team at least once in the past 3 years, you're considered a star. And this applies to you. Right? If you haven't made an all-star and all NBA team at least once in the last 3 years, this really doesn't apply to you. So for us, the only one it would apply to at this point is Julius Randle.
Right.
Now, I don't know if this was actually, they voted on it yesterday. There was some language there that if the player makes the all-star team this season, then after they make the all-star team, then it would apply to them for the rest of the season. So I don't know if that was voted on yet. If somebody knows that, let me know. All right. So basically, teams must manage the new policy states that teams must ensure star players are available for national television games and in-season tournament games. Right? So no more, it's a national televised game. There's some exceptions. We'll get into the exceptions. And Julius Randle sits out, which he doesn't. Or Jason Tatum sits out. Or Jaylen Brown sits out. Or whoever else made the all-star team sits out. they will launch an investigation into why that player didn't play.
But hold on though. But is it? I'm trying to think. But I thought it was just two all-star players can't sit at the same time.
Oh, that's another one.
Oh, okay. So if it in Julius Randle's case, he wouldn't be able to sit out those games, even though he's the only all-star on our team.
If you're injured, that's an exception. But
Okay.
to rest in a nationally televised game, no. Or an in-season tournament game, no. This is the resting policy. If you're injured, you're injured.
Got you. I just thought it just affected like a team with two players. That's all. But if you're saying that if it's just one player, he can't rest either.
No.
Okay. Got you.
No.
Right.
But yeah.
I was gonna say you can't really enforce that though. It's whatever. How do you enforce that? Like, how do you investigate? If a player could tell you, I can't play, I have a headache. Like, how do you prove they didn't have a headache? It's not really enforceable. I don't understand the point of that.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people saying that like what Dallas did last season. Like at least a lot of people on Twitter was talking about that. I haven't paid attention to the chat in the last since we started.
Let me just go through all of them and then we can discuss it, because I think I'm gonna get to what you're talking about, shutting players down for the season. Yes, that's another one. Okay. So you must ensure the star players available for national televised and in-season games. Teams must manage their roster to ensure that no more than one star player is unavailable for the same game. So this would apply to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Both of them cannot rest on the same game. Obviously, if they're injured, that's another story, but you can't rest them during the same game. Okay, we talked about that. Nationally televised games. Teams must refrain from any long-term shutdowns or near shutdowns. Okay. And again, I'm with you, Ajay, in terms of what the investigation, is going to be. The medical team can lie and say that the person was injured or what have you. That's on them in terms of but you will get investigated. So under that scenario, the Washington Wizards and Portland Trailblazers would have been investigated by shutting down Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard last season. There would have been an investigation into that. All right. Teams must maintain a balance between the number of one-game absences for a star player in home games and road games, with a preference that if they are going to rest, that it is in a home game and not an away game. Right? This is all about, listen, the NBA has contracts with gambling sites as well as
right. True.
TV contracts. That's where the revenue comes in, and the players get a part of that revenue, 51%, if I'm not mistaken. So the more fans that's watching the games, the more the revenue goes up, the more they can charge for commercials. All right, these are the exceptions. Oh, and if you are resting, you have to be present and visible to the fans on the bench.
Well, okay. Why is that a thing? I wonder why I changed that.
Yeah, well, I guess, you're resting, that's fine. I guess it's about the fan engagement, the fan at least seeing you at the game on the bench, I guess, as opposed to you not showing up to the game or staying in the locker room. Okay. All right. The NBA will allow pre-approved designated back-to-back allowances. Pre-approved now for players who are 35 years old on opening night or have career workloads of 34,000 regular season minutes throughout their career, or 1,000 regular season and playoff games combined. Right? So you can then petition for an assess for a an exemption, I guess. If a team feels that a star player is unable to play in back-to-back games, it must provide to the NBA written information at least 1 week prior explaining why the players' participation should be limited. So, yeah. And a team can seek approval for a star player to be unavailable for one end of a back-to-back based on the player's prior or unusual injury history. So I'm thinking Kawhi Leonard. Other exceptions include bona fide injuries, personal reasons, rare and unusual circumstances, roster management of unavailable star players, and end of season flexibility. So they are taking into account that you may rest players at the end of the season. But I agree with you, Ajay, how they're going to enforce it, how they're going to investigate it. Yeah. I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Yeah, I'm not so sure how fans will even be able to keep track of this stuff. It seems like there's a lot of analytics involved to me.
Yeah. Say that again.
I just say, like, I don't think like how fans will be able to keep track with all this. Like, it seemed like the fans will pay attention to the fans on their particular team, and that's pretty much it. Like, for us, the only person that we have to worry about sitting is Julius Randle, and he's not the type of person to rest. So,
right,
it wouldn't pertain to anybody else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's going to pertain to Jalen Brunson when he makes the All-Star game.
Good point.
Because I believe there was some language. I don't know if it was improved. If it was approved, if that will kick in that season or the following season. I think it's going to kick in that season when you make the All-Star team. But that wasn't clear in the article that I read. They weren't clear on it.
Right. Oh, okay. A lot of this don't seem clear, to be honest. That's what I'm saying. I don't think I think it might be a big nothing. That's what I'm saying.
It's a big nothing. So not only it's unclear, but then there's like so many exceptions. It's just gonna be back the way it was. There's just so many, there's so many excuses you can use to sit a player at this point. Like, it's just gonna be the same thing.
They want the appearance that they're doing something.
Yes,
right. They want a hard line. Players should always play, unless you don't want them to.
They have a rule, specific for players that's 35 and older. Like, it's that many players. So it's pretty much like the LeBron rule.
Right.
And Taj Gibson.
And Taj Gibson. Yeah, the Taj Gibson rule. Matter of fact, forget I said that. That's the Taj Gibson rule. Thank you.
Yeah. I actually think we're going to see less players sitting less. I do. I think, especially for national televised games, I really do think they're going to enforce it. Plus, you have to play at least 65 games to be eligible for any of the postseason awards, except Rookie of the Year and the All-Rookie team, if I'm not mistaken. So I do think you're going to see an uptick in players. I don't think it's going to be 82 games, but I do think there's going to be less players resting.
Right.
We'll see. We will. What did you say, Ajay? We will track this during the season.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They've cut back on the back-to-backs considerably from what they used to be, too, I think.
Right.
I don't think they have near as many. I mean, used to be every team had like 14 or 15 of them. Now I think 12 is the most anybody has. I could be mistaken on that, but I know last year that was on the schedule. One of the concerted efforts that they made was a concession and collective bargaining that they were going to have fewer and fewer of those back-to-backs. And a lot of actually, when they do have those back-to-backs, they're in the same city,
Right.
Like you played, like last year, I think the Knicks played in Chicago twice in a row or something like that. Yes. So that way they don't have to travel and they can play a back-to-back, but they stay in the same town. So
right. Yeah.
I remember that maybe I want to say 1999, a lockout season where they would play 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
That was
tough. Yeah.
3 days, like back to back to back.
Right. Let me just read this super chat. It's a little late. Paris Duggar, thank you for the super chat. Obi had 12 blocks all season. Randall had only 21, but 21 is more than 12.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah. All right, Paris Duggar, send another super chat with a clarification.
Salute to Paris, man. Salute to Paris.
Shout out to Paris Duggar.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I don't think, like you said, I don't think it impacts us. Randall plays.
Right.
Old headset medical documents may be required. And I think if you're a doctor for that team, you really don't want to I wouldn't put myself in that position of lying.
No.
In an investigation, just so the player can, play.
But you don't have to do all that much. I mean, think about it. By the time the playoffs come around, everybody hurt. Everybody's banged
right.
up. It's such a physical game. Right. You can, oh, my pinky, my turf toe, plantar fasciitis. There's a million different things that you can claim legitimately medically.
Right.
That that aren't like major injuries, but you can document them that for to miss a game or whatever.
Back tightness.
Yes.
Chip toenail.
No,
that ain't. I don't know if that's gonna work.
But yeah, all you gotta do is.
I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, something like back tightness will shut all that down.
Yeah. Justo11, appreciate you. Thank you, super chat. Thank you for rocking with us. Who do people complain about Randall? Then want stars that, well, why? Probably why? Why do people complain about Randall? Then want stars that rest more than him? Then they say he complained too much, but want Luka and Embiid that complain, because it's about talent in this league. Justo11.
Yeah,
and sometimes you're willing to take a more of a complainer who's more talented, right? Or a player that may rest more but shows up, and by show up I mean they're gonna play in the playoffs. I think that's what it is. All right. Shout out to Josh, Uncle Fulio, appreciate you. Support to the channel and the Queen staff. I think Randall needs some days off for his mental health, the way Tibbs plays him. I mean, I don't think he plays more minutes than any other power forward. I think he was ranked. I don't think he's ranked high, but I'm not averse to Randall or Brunson getting days off. For rest.
You need to make Randall take the day off. I don't think he ever wants to miss a game. Like, I think he was really upset when that ankle injury cost him playing all 82. I think he takes great pride in the fact that he doesn't miss games. And he, you can say we want him to sit, but he doesn't want to sit. And if I'm the coach and I've got a player, do you want to rest day? No. Okay.
Right.
We'll get out there then. That's what I'm going to say. I don't know.
I think that's a real slippery slope to say that. I don't know. I'm not saying that Josh is wrong, but I don't know who determines if like Julius Randle needs a mental health day, and how do you mandate that?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. You go up to him and say, "Yeah, you need to chill out today." Like as a player, I'm not taking that. No way. Like, what if I don't think I need a mental health day?
Right.
Like, if you make me, then yeah, I'm going to the collective bargaining agreement or something like that. Like, I'm going to the players union. Like, I don't think that'll fly. It's like it's a good premise though, but I don't see how it could be practiced though. I don't know.
He has to agree to it.
Yeah, he would have to agree to it.
Right. And hopefully you have enough of a relationship with him to say, And I don't know if I would couch it as a mental health day.
Right. You gotta say something else.
You gotta say something else.
You can't say like, yeah, you wilding. We gonna skip you to that.
Or we think you
can't
about
do
the
that.
wow. So we want you to rest.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't do that. But I understand where he means though, like,
Right.
you know, trying to look out for the player or, you know, or maybe protecting your investment. But I just don't see how you could put it into practice without alienating somebody. That's all.
Yeah, I agree, Josh. I mean, we haven't talked in a long time. Hopefully everything is well with you and yours.
Right.
I thought in the playoffs, I gotta craft my words carefully for the Randall. I'm a Randall fan too, but the super fan. So I just want to make sure I say this right. Hit the like button in the meantime. I thought his injury took something away from him mentally. I just think that some guys just don't do well with injuries. Some guys just don't do well with the fact that they're limited and they can't play the way they're used to playing. And there are other guys that be like, well, you know what? I'm going to do what I can. If I can't do this, I'm going to do this. Randall to me looks so flat effectively. Like, you know, his affect, his facial expressions looks so flat. His energy looked flat. So I agree there was a physical component to it. Don't get me wrong. But I also don't think mentally he handled the injury well, you know. Yeah, I think that was part of it. But so that was a game in the playoffs where I thought he wasn't all there, and I didn't think it was, just physical.
Yeah, and at that point, you can't sit him.
Right.
So,
yeah.
There's only one reason I didn't like Julius Randle. Well, not only one reason, but there's one. When he came back, you're right, Queen. I felt he was like he wasn't himself,
right?
You know, and Julius went. Next time Cody Zeller try to play you, yo,
I forgot about that.
You better get off that floor, man, and show that.
Right.
Don't let that happen again, Julius.
I don't know, man. I kind of wish somebody else would have hit Cody Zeller, not Julius Randle.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Like Jericho Sims should have just dove on him somewhere. Like,
right.
Like we could afford to get, have Jericho Sims get suspended or whatever. You don't want Julius Randle swinging on nobody though.
Cody Zeller, really?
I'm just saying, like, no matter who it is, like, as soon as Julius Randle get in a fight, people already talk about his emotionality. Now you want to get him in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the fans are going to say about him then? Like, he almost tried to fight Emmanuel Quickly. So imagine if he really tried to fight Emmanuel Quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people, they'll kill Julius Randle. Mm-hmm. They kill him for the stuff that he does now, but imagine if he actually was as bad as some people think he is. With this fan base, he'd get killed.
Right.
If he would have gotten the fight. But I get it, though. I just wish somebody else would have dove on Cody Zeller.
Right.
Dove or swing or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Pick up, slam. It's a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. Yeah, Keith Turner. I don't think we're talking mentally wrong, like bipolar disorder or anything.
No, we
like
talk
that.
About a rough day, man.
Yeah. I think we're just talking about, sometimes he ain't right, that's all. All right. Justo11, appreciate you for the super chat. That complaining got them no rings yet. Okay. And neither do we. So do you want a complaining player with talent or a complaining player with less talent? Right. I'll take a complaining Giannis any day, though. All right. So you feel me. Okay. Also, if Randall is healthy, do you guys believe we beat Miami? I do.
Yes. Absolutely.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
I say no just because nobody else showed up. Like, you got to give me Randall and at least somebody hitting shots.
Mm.
Give me somebody else too, not just Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson doing everything. I
Yeah,
want
we
to
were
say
so
everything.
close just with Brunson doing everything, though.
Right.
Imagine if he did get help from Randall. I mean, we were 2 points away from taking it back to games. We're 3 points away from taking it to Game 7, as it was with Randall as a no-show. I mean, you gotta. I mean, Randall healthy changes the whole complexion of that series defensively too. I mean, you're
Right.
having to spend a lot of time and effort and double teams, and you can't just play Julius Randle one-on-one, or you're gonna get cooked.
That's true.
Yeah, but I thought Bam did a good job of defending him one-on-one. But, again, part of it could have been the ankle,
Yeah, I think
so
Julius
he wasn't
Randle-
as mobile.
I think Julius Randle would have killed Bam Adebayo. Like regular Julius Randle, I think would have. I don't think Bam Adebayo could play regular Julius Randle.
Okay.
I
Like
don't
he
think he
wasn't.
did during the regular year. I think Randall
Yeah.
had some big games against Miami during the regular season when he was healthy. So I think that backs that up. I mean, I think there's no question we beat him with a healthy Randall.
Playoffs is different, but I get it. Yeah.
That's what I was about to. That's what I was about to say. When you think about what Miami did, they packed the middle. So I guess Randall would have been shooting from the outside, like shooting. I mean, I guess that's where he took most of his shots anyway, right? He would have been shooting from the outside. Maybe he would have got some mid-range, some mid-range shots. I still think it would have been hard for him if we weren't hitting shots, because then they would still be able to crowd him a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. But it was a game of inches, and I do think a healthy Randall, I think we would have squeaked it out.
You know what's crazy though? But like I said, say if we hit more shots, we wouldn't have needed Julius Randle to be Julius Randle either.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
That's how close we were. Like it could have been either or, and we would have beat Miami. If we would have had both, then
Probably would have swept them.
right.
Yeah. All right. So was he unhealthy or not? That's what I'm saying. Was it the ankle or not? Because there's something. Oh, he was injured. It was his ankle. That's why he couldn't. There was some games where he was moving smooth to me.
That's why at first I hated the excuse of the ankle, but I understand it.
Right.
But like sometimes Julius Randle looked like Julius Randle, but then he'll just fall off. So
Right.
it's either an excuse or it's not. Like, you can't have it either way. You can't have it. Well, he did this then, but in the same game he did that. Like you have to make it an excuse all across the board. Like if he was hurt, he was hurt. So
listen, Grimes. I don't know if it was a healthy Grimes. Because Grimes wasn't shooting well even before he got hurt.
quickly,
He'll be better. He'll be better though. Paris Douglas hammering home his point. Obi Toppin is still alive. All right, appreciate you, Paris Douglas. Julius Randle played 2,707 minutes and had 21 blocks. And Obi Toppin played 1,507 minutes and had 12 blocks. So in other words, in terms
Neither
of
one of them took block shot.
they're the same rate though. Like he didn't double. Like he almost doubled his blocks, but he almost doubled his minutes. So I'm trying to figure out it's the same.
No,
rate.
it's yeah. They work out to be almost exactly the same amount of
Right.
blocks
That's
per
what I'm
minute.
saying.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I still don't get the point.
Right. I guess he's trying to say
Obi wasn't that bad.
it wasn't right. He's a better, but listen, rim protection is not just about block shots, and neither one of them are good shot blockers anyway. So I'm not even caring about shot blocks. What we're losing, if you're playing, theoretically, is rebounding.
Yeah, I was about to say put the rebound numbers up instead of the blocks.
Right.
From that position, I should say.
And Julius is one of the best rebounders in the league.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Flat out. I mean, and pulls down the tough ones in traffic in the fourth quarter too, man. I don't know how many times he rips down rebounds like a man. Like he just goes and gets it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's at his best. When he's lathered up on those getting those rebounds, I'm like, oh, he on one today. You can tell when he started attacking the boards, he's on one today. All right. Dwayne Dennis, just because these players are in the NBA and play for different teams, it should be treated as a job. You should get a certain amount of paid sick days. Then missing games are unpaid time off.
Unpaid time.
Okay.
No, because sick days that's paid time off.
Right.
So,
but you get a certain amount of paid sick days. And I guess once those are out, then now.
Oh, I got you.
No. But the difference is the team, so the boss, the employer actually wants them to take those days off in order to protect, quote unquote, protect their investment. So that's the difference. When you taking time off from your regular job, they don't want you taking time off.
Right.
They can argue you have the whole off season to do whatever you want to do.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 250 days of work versus 82, regular season wise.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say Jeff, they actually work more. We see the 82 games, but these guys, they always in the gym. They always work. They always practicing.
Yeah.
But I mean, they also get paid a lot of money to step out on that court and play ball.
I agree. 100%.
Like that the rest days is like the last. Patrick Ewing didn't get a rest day. I can promise you that. He played on two bad knees, and he was out there every time if he could crawl, he was going to be out there. So there's something about this generation of players that's just different. I mean, you didn't hear about rest days when we were kids.
Right.
It was just unheard of.
But depending on the contract. Okay, go ahead, sir.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, depending on the contract, they got workout bonuses and everything. Like you get paid to practice too.
Right. But I also think a lot of this has to do with the training staff as well, and just how that has evolved over the years, and the belief in rest and the belief in recovery days. And so that, I don't know if that science was available to them back when Patrick Ewing died. Oh my God. Well, when Patrick Ewing played, oh my goodness. One of my only four favorite players. I need him to be alive and well.
He just killed him.
She didn't mean that.
I didn't mean that at all. When Patrick Ewing played, I don't know if the exercise science was at that point. And I think that's what a lot. So I don't know if it's just them deciding I'm not playing today. It could be, but I wonder if some of it is informed by their trainers as well.
Right. They didn't have no sports science back then. Sports science was like the cold tub, and that was it.
And Gatorade. Don't forget the Gatorade.
And
if that's going to be the case, then shorten the regular season.
That's what somebody brought up too. Yeah.
You can't do that though, because the less games they play, the less money they make. So they're not going to shorten the regular season. If anything, it's going to be longer, just like the NFL is.
Well, if they're going to have the games, you need to play in them. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
If you want that money, because I'm saying if it's truly a health issue, and if health is the primary concern, I have no problem with that. But if that's the case, let's shorten the regular season to 65, 72 games, whatever it is. So cut out all the back-to-backs or whatever it is, so that way you can get your rest. But, getting more rest has its consequences, right? You don't get as much money if you want to get your rest. Why do they need to get their rest and get paid too?
Okay, yeah.
You sound like the NFL. Those are NFL contracts. That's all it boils down to. Like, that's the difference between guaranteed contracts and non-guaranteed contracts. Like baseball and basketball is all guaranteed, and that's what players in the NFL want, because they don't have to get paid. Work to get paid. To be honest, like It's guaranteed money.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. Anything?
I don't know. I kind of feel insulted though. He said I sound like the NFL. I don't know if that's
No, I'm just saying it's not necessarily a bad thing. I guess it depends on what you're talking about. But yeah, that wasn't a bad thing. But that's what, in a nutshell, that's what it is. Like when it comes to workout bonuses, that's what I was talking about. Like in the NFL, they get paid to practice, and they get game checks, and they get other type of checks, workout bonuses and stuff. The NBA is pretty much just all guaranteed. It's just different.
Well, in the NFL, it's so much harder on those guys' bodies too. I mean, they only can play a certain amount, and
Right.
I had a buddy of mine who played. Well, it was a friend of my wife's actually. He played college football at Texas A&M. He was a walk-on, and he said he was a star high school player. The whole deal. He said they hit so hard in practice, he would be black and blue. Like from head to toe everywhere, just from practice, not even talking about the game. And so if they're doing that at a D1 college, I can't imagine how much worse it is in the NFL when everybody's bigger and stronger and faster and, all of those things. So, I mean, that kind of punishment is different than in any other sport. I mean, you're not talking about the same thing and not say that basketball isn't physical and all of that, or hockey or anything. They are physical sport, but you don't undergo that kind of punishment like you do in football.
Right. And to be honest, that's why the money isn't guaranteed, because it can't be, because there's too many injuries. It's almost like two things can be true at the same time.
Yep.
Right. Anything else before we close it out? Anything came up late in terms of anything we discussed today? Anything else you want to discuss?
I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, it's still the off season. Training camp happens a couple weeks, right?
September 27th.
Nice.
Yep.
And if you're a Giants fan, make sure you're checking out Jerrell's show on Wednesday.
Yes.
And his watch along on Sunday.
Yep.
Please support him. He does such a great job on this show and helping out the Queen every week. Let's be sure. I'm talking to myself here as much as anybody about because Wednesdays are bad night for me, but I need to at least get in there and support you because you do a great job over there. And if you like Giants football, you don't want to miss it because I mean he knows his stuff. He's thorough, and you know what job he does. He's here every week, so you like the Giants. You need to be there.
Yeah,
Cool.
the link is in the description as well.
Cool, thank you. Die Hard Giants will be live at halftime during the Cardinals game on Sunday. We play at.
It'll be a better result this week, Giant.
What time we play?
Hold on, Geoff. I don't even.
That's what I
It can't,
said.
right.
It can't be
It
worse.
can't be
right?
worse.
It can't be worse.
Can't
Right.
be worse. We play at 4:00, so I'm going on at halftime, which will probably be around like 5:30ish.
I'm
play
looking
four o'clock.
forward to that. Now, Arizona is a rebuilding team, but they played Washington tough. So the Giants can't just be walking in there expecting that they're going to win.
Only thing though, Washington also played a rookie quarterback. We don't have one of those, so I expect us to beat the hell out of the Cardinals.
Just run the ball.
Yeah, if we don't,
just run the ball.
like we can't just win. We can't do what Washington did. We can't just win by like a field goal. Like we have to. We're way more.
You got to take it. I think you got to take it how you can. I think you got to take. You saw how they looked last week. I think you got to take it however you can. Get.
Stop the show. Stop the show. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Like that was hard. Like just what. Speaking of the channel, salute to Steph and Eru again, because we actually sat through. Halftime we was already down 26-0. That's when the show started. So that's how good we were that we actually took the whole game.
Y'all need to understand. This is how dedicated Jerrell is. Before the show, he told me he watched that game 3 times.
Yep.
Now I love the Jets, but if we get beat 40-0, I ain't watching it 2 more times. I promise you that. So that's how dedicated he is to his craft and bringing that that hot info to you and the breakdowns that he has. I mean, he really takes the time. That takes a lot of gumption. I don't know the right word, but and it takes a lot of love. Let's put it that way.
And not to mention with the beating we're getting, Jerrell kind of give you like something to kind of take to look forward to, and not 100% focus. We were watching the game and listening to the show at the same time, but it kind of eased their pain a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Ass whoopings like that aren't normal. That wasn't a normal game.
Right. The Giants aren't that bad, so Giant fans will be better, and Dallas ain't that good either. No. But I want to say also the Wednesday show, and I mentioned this in the beginning, Jerrell was by himself. I forgot. Eru, I think, had something to do, and he did the show by himself. And I really it was 20 minutes, like a 20-minute show.
Short.
I'm getting you ready for the Arizona game, and I really liked it. Jerrell, I'm telling you, you need to consider
just doing it by myself and just
putting a video out, going live. I prefer to go live because you know what? When you're live, you're mentally, you're just like, it is what it is. I'm live. There's nothing I could do about it. And you would think a video is the same thing. You just you're going to say the same things you say live. Just hit. When that button go on, it's like, oh, I'm going to have to do that over. I'm going to have to do that over. Exactly. Take 5.
Exactly.
Take 8. It's something about that button coming on. Yep. So it's like, you know what? Let me just go live and do this.
Yep. It's in the back of your head because you know you can mess up and just start over.
Right.
When it's live, I was up there by myself, you just got to talk.
Just got to talk. It's on. You got to talk. But you, for whatever reason, when you doing a video, I just can't get that same mindset. Like, just talk.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Yeah, definitely. Family, I appreciate you. I linked the audio podcast at the top of the chat. I did a countdown to training camp series. I'm going to talk about the guards. I'm going to talk about the forwards. I'll talk about the centers. And I'm talking about Brunson and Randall separate. They're going to get their own show. And basically what I'm doing is what I liked about each of our guards last season, what I'm expecting this season, and the number one thing that I think our guards can do to help take this team to the next level and take our offense to the next level. And it's not ball movement. Not that ball movement isn't important. I just don't think that's the number one thing. So I cover Grimes, quickly, DiVincenzo, and McBride in that. And it's short, 30 minutes.
Very informative. Well done.
Yeah,
you should
I'm 30. And I would appreciate feedback as well, because one of the things I'm struggling with, I don't know if struggling is kind of strong, but how much stats to put in and how much stats to leave out. Like sometimes when you put in stats, it can kind of drag the podcast down, a little bit. And sometimes people, they all right, he shot 37%. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know the percentile. I don't need to know, whatever. So your feedback on that would help. I appreciate everybody in the chat. Jerrell, Geoff, Tip, Hater, Ajay. I'm kidding. With you. I appreciate you. Jay Boogie, wherever you at. We miss you. Stafford, wherever you at. We miss you. And of course, Tsunami.
Yes.
We miss you. Yes. Until next time, family.
You tune in, that means you're feeling the vibe. The bell rung, you already been subscribed. Right now, the queen, she on live. Please pull over the whip, no phoning when you drive. Dope Soul, sporting with the talk. First lady from New York, Brooklyn. All my people, you rocking with the chat. The like button would tell me where you at. Step from the MBK, born and raised up MBK. Hey, real lady, where she holding it down. No matter how you feel, she gon' greet you with a smile.
Sister, you one of a kind.
Yes.
Oh, sister, it's time you shine. Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
Where you at? Where you at?
Dope Soul.
What?
Dope Soul.